Chapter 70. Due to the disappearance of the Lich Roland, they no longer had to worry about their home being destroyed. The dark elf ladies clenched their teeth and dug out the last of their savings from their shoes to rebuild their home for the third time. With the help of many free laborers, for example, a certain remnant knight, a certain kidney knight, a certain holy knight, the town security headquarters was quickly rebuilt. The new town security headquarters was designed by the Grey Dwarf craftsman. It was shockproof, explosion-proof, fireproof, flood-proof, and Roland-proof. As for how I knew about it, it was clearly written on the blueprint of the building. The few red words could be seen from over 100 meters away. I still don't move on the 4 defenses at the front, but what is the meaning of a Roland-proof at the back? This is the privilege of a child. If I don't understand, I can just ask. However, the following development, I know that I don't need Diana to answer. Roland, who mentioned this name? The moment I mentioned this name, countless female knights jumped out of nowhere. Covered in armor, they held sharp swords in their hands. Their eyes were bloodshot and they looked murderous. It was as though they wanted to fight it out with someone. That Protect Roland is an anti-undead barrier that we specially invited the Great Mage to set up to deal with a certain person. Right, little Rolo, you mustn't say your uncle's name here. On the surface, I nodded my head as if I understood, but I was secretly breaking out in cold sweat. It has been so long. Is there such a deep grudge? The compensation for the repairs was approved by me from the Supreme Court. Without me, how could you rebuild it so quickly? A bunch of heartless little ones. All right, looking at these red-eyed aunties who were muttering curses, even though I knew that it was impossible for them to see through me, I still instinctively wrapped my cloak tightly around me. Waha, I didn't expect your reputation to be so good, as expected of my disciple. All right, I was even mocked by this old witch who was rubbing herself in the cloak. But then, as though she had thought of something, Diana hurriedly added, "Don't say it even if you go out. You mustn't. Your uncle, his reputation in the city is a little terrible. Actually, I don't have any prejudice against him, but there are some things that I can't say as an elder. In short, little Roland, for the sake of safety, don't ever tell anyone that you are Roland's nephew." All right, looking at the bashful Moonlight Knight who was too embarrassed to speak ill of others, the black cat was already rolling on the ground in laughter. "Little brother Roland, what did you do? Why are you doing so badly in your own territory? Even this female knight can't say it out loud. Shut up, magical pet. Otherwise, I'll make you shout like a squirrel while doing 2.5 360-degree somersaults on the spot until you puke." The moment I said that, even if Harloise gritted her teeth in anger, she knew that my threat was real. If I said that I would make her do 2.5 somersaults, I definitely wouldn't make her do 3 somersaults. Harloise, who is always sensible, immediately shut up. "All right, little Luo, hurry up and go eat." Hearing this, he immediately became excited. He had finally encountered some bad luck today, and his luck had finally turned. Now that he didn't even have a single copper coin on him, it was a good opportunity for him to freeload a meal. On the way to the canteen, looking at this hesitant female knight, I had many thoughts on my mind. There were many things that I had to do now, but the most important thing was to get rid of this young appearance. In his current state, the hilt of his sword was bigger than his hands, and he couldn't even hold the sword steadily. How's he going to fight? The young man's short stature made his steps small, his hands and feet short, and it was hard for him to exert his strength. No matter how good his basic abilities were, it would be hard for him to utilize them. Furthermore, when he reached the human world, he would definitely have to interact with those powerful nobles. However, reality wasn't a legendary knight novel. Although appearance wasn't everything, if he was too young, it would be hard for him to gain the trust of others. My plan was ruined. If I were to wait for him to grow naturally, who knows how long it would take for this physical body to reach adulthood. I should first think of a way to hide it. Right, dragons are a race that gets stronger the older they get. Judging from Little Red's age, she isn't at the age to evolve into an ancient dragon. She might have some secret arts. I'll go look for her later. After making up my mind, I started to enjoy the lunch that I had been waiting for a long time. At the table by the side, it was already filled with aunties who kept sneaking glances at me. Not only was the table full, even the entrance was filled with people. In the corner, Momo, who was chained up, was still howling incessantly. Momo, I'm not a Shota lover. It is just that the person I like happens to be a Shota. All of you who haven't touched a man for dozens of years, you thirsty hashtag at it Yenat. Ask yourselves, do you not want to paint this innocent and pure smile with your own colors? He already has an owner. He is all mine. Don't you dare snatch him away from me. All right. The sight of her drooling to vent her desires was really too unbecoming. Her companions couldn't bear to look on any more, and this time, their mouths were gagged. On the other side, even though Momo's mouth was gagged and her neck was chained up, she still tried her best to pounce over like a frenzied dog. Her companions tried their best to hold her down, while I tried my best to pretend that I didn't hear or see anything at all. Looking at me gobbling down my food, Diana seemed to hesitate for a long while before speaking. I'm afraid that you are too late. Your uncle won't be coming back. Why don't you stay with us for the time being? The moment she said that, before I could even reply, the cheers almost caused the ceiling of the cafeteria to fly up. Big sis, you actually got it. I thought that you weren't normal anymore. Big sis, you did well. Enjoy it first. Just remember to share a bit with me. Yeah, even if I can't eat it, it's nice to look at it. But, big sis, you really won't eat it all by yourself, right? I'm not a Shota lover, so I am not interested. However, I don't think that big sis will object if I borrow it 30 years later. Anyway, humans grow very quickly. You should be sick of it 30 years later. Yeah, you're not a Shota lover. You are an uncle lover. As expected of the open-minded dark elves, the scale of their words was shocking. While the elves were surprised, it made my heart tremble. I started to doubt whether it was worth it to enter the tiger's den just for a meal. Hearing the cheers of her companions, Diana was stunned for a moment before smiling bitterly. She couldn't explain it either. Could it be that she coincidentally found out that Roland is Lord Womians and Lord Womians has already ascended to heaven? So this child is destined to be unable to find her uncle? Even if it is Sulphur Mountain City, it is a dangerous underground world. If she were to meet a human trafficker or a pervert, Sulphur Mountain City doesn't seem to lack the latter. At least, that fierce dog who is still struggling despite being chained up is definitely one of them. Think it over. I see that you are white and tender. You don't look like a child of the underground world at all. This place is completely different from the surface. You should be thinking about how you are going to survive here. Thank you, big sis, but Uncle Roland said that if I can't find him, I should look for Lord Mises. Looks like I can only force myself to look for Little Red first. Looking around, those female elves seem to be hiding something suspicious in their mouths. Their eyes are glowing green, and no matter how I look at them, they look like a pack of hungry wolves. It is too dangerous to stay here. However, due to certain reasons, I have to return to the old residence for a period of time. Perhaps I should find a reliable guardian for myself first. Hearing the great name of the new Dragon Empress, Diana is first shocked. Then, recalling that the child in front of her is Womian's nephew, there is a high possibility that he is related to Lord Mises. Coming to a sudden realization, she nods her head. All right, I will send you there after you finish eating. Ignoring the sighs from the side, Diana silently takes out the form and passes it to me after I finish eating. Looking at you, you should know how to write. Fill in the basic information, and I will make a temporary pass for you. That covetous gaze of hers makes my back break out in cold sweat. I have long wanted to slip away. Thus, I quickly finished writing the form, threw it down, and left. Gossiping is the nature of women. The moment Diana, as the leader of the team, leaves, the female knight crowd around to snatch the form. But strangely, as elves, they realize that they can't understand the words written on the form. Amidst the exclamation of a certain someone, they realize that the little boy has been using their mother tongue, the dark elf language, to communicate with them. Finally, under the joint research of a few scholars, that incomprehensible form is made clear. It turns out that the words written on the form contain more than a dozen different languages. All kinds of grammar are mixed together. Even though it is a mess, there isn't a single mistake. The first word is dragon language. The second word is devil language. The middle word is ancient elf language, and the grammar used to put them together is the dialect of the leopard men of the far northern sea. If this isn't a great sage who specializes in languages flaunting his linguistic skills, then the person who wrote it must have gone mad. Language is the carrier of thoughts. All living beings are used to thinking in their mother tongue. If these sentences are the process of his thinking, then he has most likely gone completely mad. Even though she is already as powerful as the Dragon Empress, Mises' life isn't any different from before. Every day, she still sleeps in her dragon nest, eats and fights. Other than the level of her opponents getting higher and higher, there isn't anything different about it. Just when she was hibernating in her dragon nest, she heard the Draken priest serving her say that a lad named Rollo wishes to meet her. She immediately runs to the door to welcome him. However, upon seeing him, she is stunned for a moment, then pooh. Haha, Roland, to think that you would have such a day. Come, call me Annie. Without any hesitation, a certain dragon rolls on the ground in laughter. Her laughter reverberates throughout the entire dragon nest, making one grit their teeth in hatred. Infuriated, I sent a flying kick at her. However, not only was I completely ignored, she even laughed even louder. I can't take it anymore. You even changed your name to Rollo, Big Brother Rollo. Come, shout for the holy light and justice, and continue leading us on our adventure. All right, since I can't beat her, I can only wait for her to finish laughing. That fellow actually laughed for a full 10 minutes, to the point that tears were flowing from his eyes. When I raised my request, she shook her head. A secret technique to grow rapidly? There is indeed such a technique, but if you don't want to forget your own name, it is best not to use it. So, that is a technique that dragons use to quickly hatch their dragon eggs to create cannon fodder. In a short span of 3 weeks, a young dragon can be born from a dragon egg. However, due to excessive growth, the brain would suffer fatal damage, turning it into a brainless cannon fodder. You humans really don't value life. Every process of life's growth has its own meaning. Children use play to train their body's coordination and mobility. Teenagers use games to train their thinking and teamwork spirit. Through learning to imitate the knowledge and skills of their elders, teenagers start to form teams to face the harsh nature. Middle-aged people learn the responsibilities of their family, while their physical strength deteriorates. Old people are weak, but they gain wisdom. Every age has its own way of living. This is a gift given by nature. Those who only stare at the future won't have the present. If there isn't even the present, how can there be a future? Hearing this string of words, I am stunned. This doesn't sound like something that Little Red would say at all. Why are you looking at me like that? No matter what, I am a giant dragon whose age is enough to be your grandmother. It doesn't matter if I say some philosophical words occasionally. Is that what Molly said? Of course not. How could she understand such things? It was my dad who said it. All right, so it is the legendary Unlucky Dragon King. However, looking at Little Red's gleeful look, is this the legendary "you can't be cool for more than 3 seconds"? However, what she said does make sense. I can't help but think of Silly Dang's experiences along the way. His physical body gradually melds with his body, absorbing experience as he grows. Following the growth of his physical body, his strength also gradually matures. Only by building a good foundation can a tall building be sturdy. In the long run, I suggest that you take it slow. Train yourself bit by bit to uncover your own potential. No matter what, it is better than pulling up seedlings to help them grow. But this won't do. I can't even hold my sword properly. At the very least, I need a body that can fight. If you only want the outer appearance of an adult male, then you found the wrong person from start. You should look for Marguerite. Time and space are her specialties. Adjusting her body without affecting her growth should be a small matter for her. Marguerite? Who? Oh, that saint who likes to wear blue clothes? Can you introduce her to me? I nod my head. My guess should be correct. However, the moment I say that, the face of Little Red, who had just turned into her human form, instantly turns pale and ugly. What kind of joke is this? You forgot about her again. Forget it. There is no point in getting angry with you. Follow me. All right, this time, Even if I don't want to meet Adam, I have no choice. Under Little Red's lead, we charge straight ahead. Very quickly, we meet at the city lord's residence. Ah, so cute. Little brother Roland, to think that you would have such a day. How delightful. All right, I knew that this would be the result. The fellow who is rocking back and forth in laughter like Little Red is my indescribable nemesis, Adam. Uncle Bones is so cute. Anne's dazed eyes look a little dangerous. However, from the fact that she didn't pounce on me, she is still much better than those female elves. As for the blue-robed sage, he also smiled slightly. It is just a time reversal ring. It is very simple. Come and collect it a week later. Thank you so much. It is our first time meeting, and I am already asking for your help. I am really sorry. I will remember this favor, and I will repay you in the future. I am unable to comprehend what happens next. Even I know that one should thank others when asking for help. However, why is it that the moment my words leave my mouth, the bustling scene a second ago turns cold in an instant? Cough. You haven't returned to your old house yet, right? I will return a while. This time, I seem to have suffered heavy losses. I am afraid that I will have to spend 3 months inside. Right. Have you collected the shards of the Roland's sacred sword? I can reforge it. Yes, when I asked the system for compensation, the system gave me the benefit of using points to forge weapons. Since I can forge a god weapon, the first thing I thought of is my family heirloom sword. Cough, of course. Wait a moment, I will go and collect it. When Adam, who tried to smooth things over, leaves, the scene becomes even weirder and more silent. When Adam appears with a bag of shards, no one wants to speak. In the small city lord's office, a weird atmosphere spreads. Everyone becomes silent. Naturally, under the premise that no one wants to speak, this reunion ends on bad terms. The moment I say goodbye and walk out of the door, I hear sobbing sound behind me. Right now, even I know that I must have done something wrong. Thus, I quicken my pace and rush back to my old house to find out what I have done wrong. Looks like I said something wrong again. Sigh, just what did I forget with this little bit of intelligence? Intelligence is the basic stat for using magic. However, it also represents a human's logical thinking ability and memory. It is a part of the soul, but it is also affected by the physical body. I remember that when I was a Lich, my intelligence was 30. Subtracting the 2 points of intelligence from the Lich's body, my basic intelligence should be 28. But now, it is only 27. Obviously, I suffered some damage during my reincarnation. How can there be no price to pay for death? The shattering of the soul in death and the infiltration of the river Styx are all killers that steal one's memory. But I am completely fearless. Anyway, it isn't the first time. It isn't like I will die if I forget something. Besides, I don't even know what I have forgotten, so I won't feel sad or regretful. It doesn't matter. The moment I step into the old house, the extinguished lights light up one after another. The entire house seems to come alive. However, I didn't stop at the residential area. From the very start, my destination was the basement of the old house. That is also the reason why I must return to Sulphur Mountain City. There isn't a sliver of light in the long and narrow passageway that resembles a medieval tower. The only thing echoing is my footsteps. The moment I enter the lowest level of the basement, the entire underground library lights up. Under the effect of an arcane spell, countless books fly around the room, as though they are birds that have just been given life. Soul examination is correct. Welcome back, Master. I am the artificial tower spirit 007 of the laboratory and library. I hope that you didn't forget me this time. Then, according to your request before you left, I will start the re-education process. This time, what do you intend to start from? Personally, I suggest that you start from linguistics, followed by mathematics, physics, chemistry. After you fill up your foundation, you can start from the practical subjects. As far as the eye can see, it is a sea of books. Thousands of bookshelves stand there silently. Under the influence of space magic, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Some of the bookshelves are labeled with physics, chemistry, and other subjects. Some of the bookshelves are labeled with comprehensive strategy, secrets of the gods, magic, and martial arts. Most of all, it is a diary of my experiments. If death is so easy to deal with, then there is no need for all living beings to fear death. Even with the protection of the system and the unique soul of a transcender, I am able to avoid entering the cycle of reincarnation. However, every time I revive, the loss of my memories and knowledge is excruciating. Furthermore, this time, I actually lost my basic stats directly. This is the worst loss I have ever suffered. What a heavy loss. Looks like I died too many times this time. Even the essence of my soul has been disintegrated. However, it doesn't matter. The intelligence points that I lost can be added up again. The knowledge that I have forgotten can be learned again. As for the memories that I lost, at least I can retrieve some of them from the diary. That's right. This was my library and laboratory, as well as a treasure trove of all my memories and knowledge. I knew that it would be difficult to achieve my goal, that death was unavoidable, and that it was only natural for me to lose my memories after death. However, as long as I remembered everything, as long as I studied and read them again, wouldn't it be no different from not losing anything? Tower Spirit 007. Let's start from my experiment diary. Let's start from the diary of this life. The name of the diary should be Mad Lich. Look up the keyword Marguerite. I want to see what happened just now. I have developed the habit of keeping a diary of my experiments for several hundred years. From the moment I leave the house, from brushing my teeth and washing my mouth to turning off the lights to sleep, from buying newspapers to plotting wars, from judging boring cases to making laws, regardless of whether it is a big or small matter, I will record it in my diary. Perhaps I will lose my memories due to death. However, these countless bookshelves and diary are my memory banks. As long as nothing happens to them, no matter how many times I try, I will start from the beginning again. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. Luckily, I only forgot 2 basic numbers. It shouldn't be too difficult to fill them up. I am counting the numbers on the river Styx. It isn't that I am bored. Rather, I'm trying my best to understand how much I have forgotten so that I can remember more. Memories are often interconnected. The human knowledge system is often intersected like a tree. If language is the foundation of social sciences, then mathematics is the foundation of science and engineering. The loss of these numbers may seem insignificant, but in reality, it represents a series of gaps. At this moment, I have something more important to remember. Driven by magic, with Marguerite as the keyword, I have already flipped to the page of the Mad Lich's experiment diary. That is the beginning of everything. That is the time when we adventured together. Ah, crap. I should apologize tomorrow. No, since I'm a saint, I will be careful and sensitive. A casual and insincere apology will only make things worse. I should first look at all of the diary before apologizing. Sigh, the last time I used more than 2 months. This time, I have more than 100 years' worth of diary entries. How long will I have to read them all? 3 months? Half a year? Immediately, I know that I'm being overly optimistic. I have died too many times this time. I can't even understand the words I wrote anymore. These square words. Tower Spirit, give me some beginner Chinese textbooks. Very quickly, a large stack of books is placed on the desk in front of me. Humans are born with a good nature. Their natures are similar, but their habits are different. If one doesn't teach, one's nature will change. The way of teaching is to be focused. In front of the desk, a young child is hugging a book that is even bigger than him. The melodious sound of him reading reverberates between the bookshelves, spreading far and wide. Chapter 71. In the vast underground world, due to the existence of dangerous magical beasts and bandits, it isn't convenient to travel between the various underground cities. It is different from the relatively peaceful underground world where a mid-tier merchant can casually hire a few mercenaries to form a merchant group. But in the underground world, legend rank warriors are as common as dogs. Liches are everywhere. Red dragons, legend rank experts, and powerful magical beasts hunt for food. There are many of them. Smaller merchant groups don't dare to venture out, and because of that, following the basic principle of high risk and high return, as long as the merchant group reaches the destination safely, the profits from transporting the specialties and goods back and forth will be ridiculously high. For example, Sulphur Mountain City specialties, sulfur adamantine ingot. The factory price of a standard container is 2,000 gold coins. If it is transported to Chrome City, it will be twice the price of the original container for 1,000 gold coins. If it is transported to Van City, which requires more than 2 months of journey, it would be at least 15 times the price. If it is transported to the surface, due to the limited production every year, there isn't a market for it. You would be lucky to be able to buy it with 100,000 gold coins. Of course, specialties are usually limited in production, and the rarer they are, the higher the price, the higher the price. However, other daily necessities are always in short supply due to their high consumption, so the profits can't be underestimated. Because of that, under Show and Cockagill's selfless contribution, the permanent space distortion directly connected to Van City is destined to bring glory to Sulphur Mountain City. The journey that should have taken more than 2 months was shortened to less than a week. Not only did the two cities benefit from it, the merchants coming and going became more frequent, and the surrounding underground cities became more prosperous. Furthermore, the deepening of economic relations would definitely bring about the strengthening of political relations. The sensitive merchants have already viewed it as a new golden trade route, while the politically sensitive underground city lords have sent their children to both places to study and build up their relations. A close neighbor is better than a distant relative. Under the mutual benefits of both sides and the unbelievable trust between the leaders of both sides, the good relationship between Sulphur Mountain City and the new owner of Vance City, the Centaur tribe, will definitely deepen. Adding on the Dragon Empress who built her nest in Sulphur Mountain City, 3 of the 5 autarchs came together. Thus, in the eyes of those who are observant, a gigantic beast is slowly emerging from the water. Economic union, political union, personal friendship union, union of powerful individuals. But the most important thing was that under the new laws and order, each species understood each other and tried to understand each other's ordinary species. This represented true union, not an alliance where everyone harbored ulterior motives. There was no place better than the cruel underground world, where people understood that unity was strength. There is also no place where the scarcity of resources and bloody competition made peaceful coexistence so difficult. When betrayal and ulterior motives became synonymous with temporary alliances, this giant beast that was gradually merging in all aspects became even more terrifying. Perhaps the underground world is going to change. Perhaps, in less than a decade, a new emperor or queen of the underground world will be born. Perhaps the current underground alliance would be replaced by the new united behemoths. Perhaps there will be a day of peace in the chaotic underground world. However, all of these are things to be discussed later. At this moment, on the Golden Trade Route, a seemingly normal merchant group is slowly advancing. To say that it is normal means that it only has 20 carriages and the goods aren't of high quality. The mercenaries escorting it are just normal dark elves and beastmen mercenaries. But to say that it isn't normal means that even though the journey isn't long, strangely enough, it didn't meet with any trouble. The bandits and magic beasts that appeared endlessly in the past seem to have disappeared without a trace, surprising the mercenaries. And I am also in the merchant group. The 3 months of tutoring has successfully ended, and the chaotic knowledge system and memories have been cleared up. Then, it is time for me to leave the underground world. At this moment, with the help of magic equipment, I am no longer that young and short stature. Time Distortion Ring, Epic Tier, Mystical Item. The wearer's physical body will be permanently at the state of 20 years old, obtaining the optimal state for battle. However, the wearer is unable to change the physical attributes of the wearer's physical body. Creator, Marguerite. Materials, fragment of the Philosopher's Stone and Mithril. System notice. In other words, your little companion can only look at it, but not use it. This time, it isn't me trying to trick you. Marguerite is definitely trying to trick you on purpose. Are you sure that she isn't able to create a ring that can perfectly change the state of your physical body? Ignoring the system notice that is trying to fan the flames, looking at my physical body that is no different from before, I am still rather satisfied with this ring. Even though I have to take it off for a few hours every day to avoid putting a burden on my body, I just happen to take it off right before I sleep. The current me is already very different. The dark gold adamantine armor that I am wearing is a little old. Without high-tier magic enchantments, it isn't considered high-tier. However, the Roland sacred sword on my waist is glowing with a silver light. The unadorned body of the sword is the embodiment of history, and it is obvious that it isn't an ordinary weapon. However, from the looks of others who are looking at the other iron sword on my back, there is a hint of playfulness in their eyes. I'm not a sword saint or a ranger, nor do I know how to wield two swords with both hands. There is no meaning in carrying two swords. This sword on my waist and the other sword on my back is the irrefutable evidence that I've been scammed by the system. Roland's sacred sword, semi-god equipment, upgrading from orange legendary equipment to silver semi-god equipment. Attack power, 22 to 44 plus 11. Plus 11 is due to the fact that it is considered a plus 11 semi-god equipment. Even if I were to utilize the lower limit of the weapon's damage, there would still be an additional 11 points of damage from the Silver Flame enchantment. Indestructible. Even against the god equipment, this sacred sword will not break. The previous 2 times it broke, the first time was because of ale, and the second time was due to the special effect of the Dragonslayer blade when it was in a weakened state. Mist royalty. The Roland sacred sword is the symbol of the royalty of the Mist royalty. Only those who have inherited the recognition of the king can wield this sacred sword. Following the rise of the Mist Kingdom, it is working hard to evolve and become stronger. But at the same time, this proud sacred sword can only be wielded by the Mist royalty's most trusted knight. Wind of the King. The wielder's strength +2, agility +2, stamina +2, charm +6. In a country established by the Mist bloodline, the wielder's reputation starts from respect. There is a string of yellow words on the body of the sword. The Roland sacred sword is the sword of the legendary Saint Knight, Prince Roland. Only his descendants and inheritors of his can obtain the recognition of this sacred sword. Usage requirement. Mist bloodline. In order to repair this sword, I saved the remaining 20,000 fate points for my resurrection. I didn't use it to upgrade my own abilities and walk to Sulphur Mountain City with my heart on tenterhooks. In the end, hey, system, can it really be repaired? Will it say that I don't have enough fate points to repair it halfway? It won't. Through my calculations, I have sufficient fate points. I could still leave a few thousand points for you to upgrade. The repaired sacred sword won't turn to trash, right? It is guaranteed to be strong. From Orange Legend, in order to prevent it from mixing with the individual's legend rank, the rank above purple epic weapons is changed to Orange Legend. To semi-god equipment, it is definitely a qualitative leap. Are you that good? Will there be a level restriction? For example, I can only use it at level 120? Then forget it. The only restriction is the bloodline. Since you don't trust the omnipotent system so much, take a look at it yourself. Alright, it tosses a screenshot of the stats to me. I look at it twice, and then look at the silver-white words that represent semi-god equipment. Powerful attack and special effects. I laugh foolishly. To prevent myself from failing miserably again, I look at the usage requirements multiple times. After confirming that the Mist King was the only usage requirement, I finally decided to repair it. But right after that, I was scammed. The only restriction is indeed the bloodline. Only the descendants of Roland can use it. Roland himself can't use it. Of course not. Even though you won't admit it, the Mist Country has indeed been destroyed. The first time he died, there was a shift in the royal authority. Now, it is the Donglan Principality, a new country built by the descendants of the legendary Roland. Even though the population is less than a quarter of the original, it is indeed the successor of the Mist Country. Be it in terms of identity or bloodline, they are the true royalty of the Mist Country. Alright, even though the system scammed me once again, it revealed a very important piece of information. The Donglan Principality is really built by the Mist bloodline? Is it my descendant or Cavendish's? Alright, as expected of the system to scam me. At such a crucial moment, it didn't answer me at all. But now, the usage of this sword is very obvious. Only the owner of the land, the royalty, and the knight who possesses the Mist bloodline can use it. Either I throw it to the so-called descendant of Roland, or I find him to confer me the title of a knight. This is really a little difficult to deal with. Then, I will have to make contact with a new royalty in advance. What title should I use? Am I your great-grandfather? Am I the child left behind by your great-grandfather? Or should I just hide my identity and get the title of a knight? With the identity of a human noble, it would be more convenient for me to move around on the surface. But just as I was thinking, someone interrupted me. Holy Knight Roland, come over and help me. Yes, it's still the Holy Knight. It's still the same name. The reason why I am called Roland instead of my usual fake name Rollo is because of the person in front of me. The Silver Avenger Holy Sword shines with a dazzling golden holy light. The adamantine full body armor that is so heavy that it could crush an elephant to death is as light as leather armor on her body. The Moon Knight, who resigned from her position as the town security captain, is still as spirited as ever. However, her skin color has changed, becoming much whiter. Of course, this isn't some cosmetic surgery from another world. Diana has chosen the path of moonlight redemption. The moon goddess Patricia, the guardian goddess of the moon and those who are lost. Under her protection, if a dark elf decides to abandon the evil faith of Rose, they can change their faith through the moonlight ritual. Although the moonlight ritual is equivalent to using moonlight needles to replant one's skin, it is painful and time-consuming. However, within half a year of the moonlight ritual, the dark elf's black skin will gradually lighten and they will gain the right to bathe in sunlight and moonlight. After the moonlight ritual is completed, although they won't be as fair as the surface elves, they will be much fairer than the dark elves. Their dark brown skin is extremely obvious. Gray elves under the moonlight is the collective name of the former dark elves who have chosen the path of justice. The moonlight's sacred emblem on their arms is their symbol. However, Diana is slightly different. While Patricia's moonlight sacred emblem is inscribed on her left arm, her right arm is tattooed with the scale's sacred emblem of the god of law, Womians. It is a golden scale. On the left side of the scale, there is a gavel that represents judgment and punishing the wicked. On the right side, there is a gold coin that represents rewards and protecting the virtuous. Behind the scale, there is a faintly discernible silhouette of a blindfolded male. That is Womians himself, the embodiment of justice. In the wave of Holy Knight becoming a Justice Knight, Diana is the only one who still maintains her identity as a Holy Knight. It isn't because she has any other thoughts, but because the legend rank Holy Knight has already condensed a soul imprint. Even if the Holy Light transforms into law, seamlessly becoming a Justice Knight is our slogan. It is just a slogan, so it is still a little lacking. If she were to change from a Holy Knight to a Justice Knight, all of her abilities would be converted. Naturally, her original soul imprint would be unusable, and it would be a given that she would drop to legend rank. Advancing to the next rank would require both time and luck, and no one knows when that would happen. A legend rank with limitless potential isn't a cabbage that can be found anywhere. It would be a pity to lose her just like that. Back then, I used my identity as Womians to persuade her to keep her identity as a Holy Knight. Considering the town security's need for top-notch combat strength, she did indeed do so. Due to certain reasons, she decided to leave Sulphur Mountain City to search for her own path on the surface. I, who had intended to use her as a meat shield and bodyguard along the way, naturally jumped out with my identity as Roland Holy Knight. I brought along a letter of introduction from a city lord, using my identity as a rookie Holy Knight to request to travel together. Yes, this time, I'm still disguising as a Holy Knight. After all, an Order Knight retains a large portion of a Holy Knight's abilities. Summoning the Holy Light is one of my forte. Furthermore, the Holy Knight has a good reputation in the various countries, making it popular. At the very least, there are no obstacles in my path. Greetings, respected Grey Elf Lady. May the radiance of Patricia light up your path. I am Roland, a Holy Knight from the human kingdom of the surface, Karen. Due to certain reasons, I have been separated from my group members. I heard that you are heading to the surface, so can I travel together with you? You see, my personal strength isn't enough to travel alone in this dangerous underground world. Sigh, if only I could use my family heirloom holy sword. Humble, polite, self-aware, coupled with the lack of confidence in my own strength and the shame and regret of not being able to use my family heirloom sword due to my lack of strength. I'm the perfect image of a rookie holy knight. Roland missed, strength 20, agility 19, stamina 20, intelligence 29, will 19, charm 19. Talent abilities: War Angel form, Sinful Demon God form, Sword of Order, Titan body, LV21 Order Knight, / LV21 Chaos, which King even after spending the remaining 3,000 plus EXP from repairing the Holy Sword into my own growth. The 3 times EXP penalty still only allowed me to level up to LV21, which had just entered bronze rank. However, it is sufficient for me to understand how terrifying this diamond rank body is. At LV21, my physical body's strength and stamina would increase by 1. This doesn't seem like much, as even a normal Beastman Berserker would be able to do so. However, growth isn't linear. When the basic stats reach the limit of a mortal 19, this small increment is terrifying. I thought that with my basic stats being so high, it would be impossible for it to increase any further without reaching gold rank. A mortal's main stats are usually stuck at 19. This is the threshold of life and death for them to advance into legend rank. They need to temper themselves between life and death to break through. However, my physical body easily broke through this limit. This can only mean that I don't take legend rank seriously. Just like powerful races like archangels and ancient dragons, it is only natural for them to advance in a legend rank as long as they are of age. When my strength breaks through 20, I awaken the race talent, Sword of Order. When my stamina breaks through 20, I awaken another race talent, Titan Body. With 4 powerful race talents in addition to my powerful basic stats, even though I am only bronze rank, I am confident that I can take on any silver rank existence alone. However, the awakening of a race talent is completely dependent on luck. It is incomprehensible for it to be awakened so easily. But very quickly, looking at my stats, which are all stuck at X9, I come to a realization. After all, 20 is the peak of a mortal's physical body. To suddenly break through a bottleneck, one's physical body would naturally improve greatly. It is only natural for a potential race talent to awaken. However, for my stats to be stuck at X9, could it be that the system is helping me? Yes, you fool. Even that red dragon is smarter than you. You should do things according to your age. Only youths have the potential to grow. If I give you an adult body that is above 20, how can you possibly awaken a race talent? I couldn't understand it, no matter how hard I thought about it. The system that has been lying to me for a long time has changed. It is actually helping me. This is my last chance. If I fail again, there won't be a next time. Besides, you are so pitiful that I can't bear to watch anymore, so I shall help you this time. Work hard. The opponent this time is really difficult to deal with. Then what about the Roland Sacred Sword? If I don't directly link it to the fate of the country, as the Sword of Kings, how can it evolve into a semi-god equipment or even a god equipment? You won't be able to escape even if the entire world is destroyed. You have lived long enough. Don't drag me down with you. All right, this time, even the darn system is helping me. If I don't succeed, I can only die for a righteous cause. However, even though I am strong enough to challenge a silver rank, it is still dangerous in the underground world where legends are everywhere. Thus, I still need to find a bodyguard to escort me to the surface. However, when I followed the system's suggestion and chose Diana to travel together with me, I deeply understand that the system is still the same system. Perhaps it might become trustworthy during crucial moments, but it would be a waste if it doesn't make a fuss during normal times. After I suggested traveling together with me, Diana, who is also a holy knight and is curious about traveling together with me on the surface, immediately agreed to my suggestion. However, when I saw the traveling companions who were traveling together with me, I instantly regretted it. Fierce Doll Momo, this is the nickname that I came up with for her. She, who had also completed the moonlight ritual, has been looking at me with a doubtful gaze. She even tried to indirectly ask me if I have a younger brother named Rolo. Judging from the mysterious liquid that kept dripping from Rolo's mouth, even if I had a younger brother, I would never tell her about it. Furthermore, I have made up my mind to never take off my ring in front of her. Alright, this is still the easiest to deal with. Gold rank Judge Crows, or Kolos, after turning into a female, she successfully evolved from the #1 beauty in the legal system to the #1 beauty in Sulphur Mountain City. Her goal is the elf's sacred spring in the surface world. It is said that it can dispel any curse. After realizing that the god of plague Halo is still in effect, I personally welcomed this unlucky lightning rod. At the very least, I can watch a joke along the way to relieve my boredom. However, looking at the murderous gazes that the other 2 flower protectors are shooting at me from time to time, it seems that I am not welcomed at all. Now that I am lacking in strength, if I were to approach her rashly, I might end up becoming the main character of a joke. That wouldn't be good. Thus, I instinctively smile and shake my head, expressing that I have no feelings towards beauties. However, strangely, as though I am not as annoying as the other flies, Kolos took the initiative to chat with me, causing the other 2 flower protectors to be filled with resentment. Alright, these are actually the easiest to deal with. The hard ones to deal with are the remaining few. Armor Specialist Blacksmith Grandmaster Hoyle, a gray dwarf, nicknamed Big Orange-Head Shorty. He has quite a personality. If I were to use the shortest sentence to describe his uniqueness, it would be, he is a core member of the Gentleman Alliance and is at the top of the town security's blacklist. Alright, there is no need to explain the rest. Everyone should understand. Ingo, BR, also a core member of the Gentleman Alliance, the organizer of this merchant group. If I knew from the start that this merchant group is a safety brand, I wouldn't have participated even if I was beaten to death. Sitting on the carriage provided by the gnomes, I am trembling. The 2 of them are the organizers of this merchant group. The goods and carriages of the merchant group are provided by them. It seems that they're going to the surface world to participate in some Grandmaster Council. However, looking at the heavy goods being dragged by the carriages, there is an 80% chance that it is a Roland. This name is really awkward. They have actually taken it as an official name. Bayphone. Herald, this is... Alright, there is no need to introduce him. Thinking about that inconceivable 10,000 points. Thinking about this fellow's glorious title of the man who single-handedly created several races, I can't help but feel the urge to draw my sword. That day, a true god gave me a revelation. I, Bayphone, a lost draken, decided to embark on a journey to find my true self. Who at hashtag at gave you a revelation? Don't spout nonsense. You %yen% are a pervert. Don't drag this onto Womians. Hearing him say that, even I can't help but feel the urge to curse. Alright, as a judge, Kolos is still very competent. At the very least, she knows how to protect the honor of her true god. After her colleague holds Bayphone down, her small fists are really vicious, hitting his flesh with every punch. Even so, it doesn't stop Bayphone from confessing to the passing giant Kodo lizard. Greetings, my kind. It is because of this romantic journey that the gods gave us a chance to get to know each other. I am Bayphone, a male, you? Oh, you're also a male? That's great. All right, when he brought the giant lizard to the back of the carriage, everyone finally couldn't hold it in anymore and pounced on him at the same time. That beating really makes one feel refreshed. This kind of incident has already happened 3 times along the way, but that Bayphone doesn't show any signs of repentance. I even suspected that he might have awakened a new interest. All right, back to normal. After dealing with Bayphone as if it was a daily mission, Diana actually took the initiative to ask me for help. Night Roland, we didn't meet any bandits or magic beasts along the way. There's obviously a problem. It is highly possible that the bandits have banded together to ambush us. There's a long and narrow valley in front of us. If there's an ambush, it is highly possible that it will be there. You should move together with me later. I know that she's being kind. Currently, I seem to be the weakest in the merchant group, so she is afraid that something might happen to me. However, I would like to say that she is thinking too much. Ambush. Under such circumstances? I look around my surroundings. Even though it is clearly out of my sight, a few black figures are hurriedly hiding themselves. In my perception, within the dark clouds, the ominous wings of death are moving slowly. The merchant leader who is 3 kilometers ahead of us, looks back every few minutes. Not too far away, a thunder-like roar indicates that a battle is going on. A figure who is moving at high speed is faintly hiding behind a stone pillar by the side. A blue figure who teleports is following behind him. Gria, as the newly appointed 3rd Senator of Shilaw, you should have endless official matters to attend to. Is it all right for you to be so free? Little Lionheart, doesn't your neck hurt from turning your head so frequently? Chiwetti, stop hiding. With such a huge body, that small sapling won't be able to stop you. Adam, Marguerite, even the 2 of you. Forget it, I don't care anymore. Yes, before I left, I did bid farewell to them. However, I didn't expect that they were worried that something would happen to me along the way. So, they actually came to escort me secretly. In the end, a large group of big shots tried their best to imitate the techniques of bandits to sneakily follow the merchant group. As for the bandits and magic beasts along the way, they were killed in an instant from a few dozen kilometers away. Forget it, they're just doing it out of goodwill. If it isn't easy to explain, then I won't. Although I say that they are unnecessary, for some reason, I feel an uncontrollable joy in my heart. The establishment of the power of law system, the existence of the true god of law, Wumians, the Shilaw Empire's royalty faction, the changes in the entire underground world. Even though the future is still not optimistic, compared to the history that is destined to head towards destruction, it has changed a lot. This time, I am not alone. Inexplicably, looking at these evasive fools, I couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 72. Hey, this is the system that furiously grinds your presence. Here are 2 of your daily quests. System upgrade, great rewards. Both of them are from the righteous faction. From now on, you must complete at least 1 daily quest every day. Otherwise, I will deduct your fate points. Completing both daily quests will give you additional fate points. Daily quest. As a knight, you must challenge a giant dragon alone. You must challenge and kill an evil dragon that is at least an adult. What right does a young dragon have to reward you? But considering that you only have the fighting prowess of around 500 cats, it is indeed difficult to challenge an evil dragon with the fighting prowess of 30,000 cats. You will be rewarded with 100 fate points. However, please note that it is alone. So, if you seek help from those hiding behind, 1,000 fate points will be deducted. I directly ignore the malicious quest to challenge the evil dragon alone. Even though I do need fate points to strengthen myself, I don't have the intention of seeking death. However, the other daily quest is even more confusing. Daily quest. Every epic hero begins by helping a little girl find a lost cat. Find a girl? No. Find a cat and return it to its owner. You will be rewarded with 3 fate points. If you don't complete both quests, 100 fate points will be deducted. What a scam. To find a cat in the wilderness, and it just so happens to be a lost one. Isn't this clearly deducting fate points? As expected, I was too naive to think that the scammer system has changed. But then, I remember that although the system is a scumbag, there isn't a quest that is impossible to complete. Or perhaps my train of thought was wrong from the very start. This isn't a quest that you should use the normal way to complete. Perhaps I can do it this way. Next, Kolos picks up a suspicious kitten that suddenly appeared. It is indeed suspicious. Not mentioning how a kitten lives in the cruel wilderness of the underground world, its attitude of ignoring the beast tamer's beast summoning ability and heading straight for the young lady is suspicious no matter how I look at it. Of course, Kolos, who is tickled by the cute kitten, immediately buys a bottle of milk from the gnome and happily feeds it to the kitten. That damn gnome bastard. This milk is too watery. All right then. Ever since she turned into a cat, Harlow's complaints had never stopped. Things like this is detrimental to the dignity of the Queen of Banshees. You're clearly a man's soul, but why do you look so much like a woman? You're even using the fat on your chest to press me down. Your subordinates are indeed a bunch of perverts. You're the king of perverts, no, the god of perverts. Considering that she still had to put on an act later on, this complaint about milk being mixed with water should be dealt with the same way as any other complaint. I should just pretend that I didn't hear it. Well, since he had the cat and the cat girl, The next step was naturally to lose the cat, as required by the mission. However, it is extremely illogical for a cat to go missing for no reason. Thus, when the righteous holy knight Roland arrived, Bayfoam, her alt, who is known as the Dragon of Extreme Evil, was just about to do something to the pitiful cat that was cowering in fear. All right then, when the enraged owner of the lost property heard the news and came over with his subordinates to beat up Bayfoam, I cried crocodile tears of sympathy. Although you are innocent this time, who asked you to usually, thinking about his usual actions, the little bit of guilt I felt turned into anger. Kolos, don't give me any face. Beat it to death. It isn't innocent. Master, well, it is fortunate that you dared to arrive in time. Otherwise, my pure body would have been ruined. Harloise trembling in fear wasn't an act. Just now, when she was facing the almost legend-ranked beast tamer alone, she was indeed helpless. Now that she found someone to rely on, she started sobbing. In an instant, my expression turned terrible. Pure body? Putting aside the question of whether the experienced Harloise has such a thing, to be able to scare the Queen of Banshees to the point of crying, scaring the stubborn Queen of Banshees to the point of obediently calling her master. What did you do, Bayfoam? You are too heartless to be able to do such a thing at such a young age. Considering the huge difference in their physiques, I was suddenly curious as to how he did it. However, after thinking about it a little, due to the disgust I felt, I couldn't connect the dots any further. Daily Quest. Every epic rank hero begins by helping a little girl find her lost cat. Reward: 3 fate points. I hope that you will continue to work hard. All right, ignoring this daily beating of Bayfoam, I brought Harloise along and silently left his tent filled with weird creatures. At least I don't have to be deducted anymore. Continue to work hard. Go to Dragon Slayer. Isn't that courting death? But suddenly, thinking about the system's weird change in direction and its usual temperament, considering the weird way of completing this mission to find the cat, I had a new idea. Based on the system's personality, if I am unable to complete it, it would immediately give me a sky-high reward to disgust me. Is there really a way to complete it with these 100 fate points? After hesitating for a moment, I nodded my head. Since there is no loss even if I fail, then it is worth a try. Thus, in the largest tent of the temporary camp, I found the old merchant, Carter, who was very familiar with this route. What? There is really an evil dragon's lair nearby? Even though it is just a young black dragon, it is really a headache for it to ambush merchant convoys and steal their goods. However, we have a legend-ranked holy knight in our group, so we don't have to worry about the crafty black dragon ambushing us. But last week, 2 merchant convoys were killed by it. Right, I heard that due to it affecting the movement of the merchant convoys, Sulphur Mountain City has organized a few attempts to exterminate it, but it managed to escape in advance. All right, I roughly understood it. Thus, I raised my sword high up and raised my voice to make a vow. Those who do evil deserve to die. All right, since there is an evil dragon, let me represent the holy light and justice to get rid of that evil black dragon. I will behead the evil dragon by myself. All right, not only Carter in front of me, everyone in the surroundings looked at me in shock. Not only did they think that this was a death-seeking vow that was in line with the Holy Knight style, it was also because I said it so loudly that half of the camp probably heard it. Then, as expected, I felt the slowly revolving power of death in the clouds start to move again. Thus, I nodded my head in satisfaction, under the gazes of the crowd. Ah, another Chinibionite whose head has been washed white by the holy light. Farewell. I won't send you off. I left the camp alone. The dragon's lair wasn't far. Following the traces left behind, I quickly found the way. Who left the traces? Let's not pursue this matter. Meow, Roland, look at that manticore. Its entire body is charred black. It seems to have been roasted by electricity. Are there any lightning-type magic beasts nearby? Oh, there might be. Hey, you really intend to find trouble with the young black dragon? Just based on your current weak battle prowess, you will be killed in an instant. Don't worry, I already have confidence. Then, the scene of me stepping into the dragon's lair strengthened my confidence. Wah, These unlucky ogres were obviously torn apart by brute force. Did they meet a titan or a behemoth? They probably met the bull demon king. I think I know where your inexplicable confidence comes from. It's good that you know. Don't talk too much. We came to the Dragon's Lair alone. As an emphasis on the word alone, there is no mistake in saying it many times. Puffed. That must be the bull demon king you were talking about. That foolish cow actually thought that a banana leaf would be able to cover him. That's weird. Why is he naked? Sigh. I'm getting more and more worried about the Supreme Court. Cough. Harlois, don't spout nonsense. What naked foolish cow? He's probably a kind-hearted pervert who just happened to pass by. Yes, we came alone. But what do you think of them? Not far away from me, a group of claw terror zombies were fighting with their own kind. The resurrected zombies didn't have the biggest weakness of normal zombies, which was slow movement. They were swift and unafraid of death. The brainless zombies actually coordinated with each other, completely suppressing their own kind in terms of strength. This is obviously the product of a master who specializes in summoning death. Looking at the outstanding formation of the zombie battle formation, it is most likely a top-notch death knight. They are probably a group of kind-hearted passers-by. Don't worry, they will leave very soon. Zzz. A bolt of lightning flashes past. Whatever zombie battle formation, whatever claw terror reared by the evil dragon, they all disappear without a trace. The only thing left on the spot is a charred corpse. Harlois doesn't know what to say anymore. This is obviously the Titan God's lightning. It is probably a kind-hearted Ultraman who threw out a light wave. There's so many passers-by today. Let's not bother about these kind-hearted passers-by. Let's go to the Dragon Slayer. All right, I won't be surprised when I see the tied-up black dragon later. Don't worry, I won't be surprised either. As expected, in the deepest part of the dragon's lair, I see that evil dragon. Although it isn't tied up, it is in a much worse state than being tied up. This man-eating evil dragon's body is charred black. Its wings are torn apart and it falls to the side. Its four limbs are tightly bound by space-time magic, and the power of death is corroding its entire body. It looks as though it was beaten up by a group of semi-gods. Even if I leave it alone, it will definitely die in no time. I silently take out my sword and swing it down. For the holy light. Dang. All right, the dragon's skin is too tough. This cheap sword is too weak, and it actually isn't able to pierce through it. It's fine. We can just do it a few more times. For justice. Dang. For honor. Dang. For... The scene in front of me is destined to be a protracted battle. Harlois is already starting to chase after her own tail out of boredom. If it wasn't for the fact that it is too hard for me to think of a new slogan, I really want to remind her that cats don't chase after their own tails, only dogs do. 4 fate points. All right, after 30-plus slashes, I can't think of a new slogan anymore. That evil dragon's face is filled with resentment. That expression of wanting to cry, but no tears seem to be saying, "Can you hurry up?" This is torturing a dragon. I'm still waiting to collect my lunchbox. For the dog raised by your second uncle's neighbor's daughter's boyfriend's teacher. All right, I don't even know if it is this genius slogan that came into effect or if the black dragon finally succumbs to its injuries. Its neck crooked and it falls to the ground dead. Finally, Dragon Slayer succeeded. This heavy panting isn't due to the exhaustion of swinging the sword. It is mainly due to the panting from shouting the slogan. Detected that only your magic pet Harlois was in the surroundings when the host completed the daily quest. The host has fulfilled the condition of alone. Congratulations to the host for completing the daily quest. As a knight, you must challenge a giant dragon alone. The reward is 100 fate points. Today's daily quests are all completed. The reward is an additional 100 fate points. System notice. To think that you would notice it. However, don't expect tomorrow's daily quest to be so simple. All right, I don't want to say anything more. System, you need to top up your moral integrity. On the field of the temporary camp, a battle between the knight is going on. The two ice-cold swords clashed against each other. Then they split into two. What made everyone shocked was that the one who was at a disadvantage in the clash of swords wasn't the newbie holy knight who somehow managed to slay a dragon. Instead, it was the justice knight who was at the peak of silver rank. As expected, if we only look at strength, even if there's a difference in rank, I won't lose to any warrior below gold rank. Although the main attribute of a Dark Elf Knight is strength, I don't think that a Dark Elf who is born with weak strength will be able to surpass my 20 points of strength that surpasses mortals. Looks like you aren't a normal gigolo. Your charging force isn't too bad. I wonder how your techniques are like. Don't look good, but don't be so useless. Even though she is at a complete disadvantage in the clash of swords, the fierce dog Momo, whose hands are numb, still doesn't forget to tease me. That dirty joke of hers with a double meaning won the cheers of the crowd. However, how can I fall for such a simple and obvious taunt? Since a dark elf who is born with weak strength is foolish enough to compete with me in strength, how can I let go of this opportunity? The mad barking of a defeated dog. With a loud roar, I press my hands down forcefully. The two swords intersect, and I slash down forcefully. Under the difference in brute force, Momo is forced to kneel on one knee. However, after going through countless combat training in Sulphur Mountain City, the other party isn't someone to be trifled with. She has already started chanting silently. I have to say, compared to the priest and holy knight whose main attribute is will, the law class, which focuses on intelligence, is more suitable for the dark elves who have higher intelligence. Incantation of law, equality of life. Darn it, it's this shameless move again. The light of order flashes, and the situation turns around in an instant. The half-kneeling Momo jumps up in an instant. I am the one being suppressed instead. One of the effects of the god equipment of the original codex, all are equal before the law. Demarcate a land within the law, lowering the rank and stats of everyone within to the same level as the user. For every 10 seconds, 1 faith point will be consumed. This is incantation of law, equality of life. This is the simplified version of the original codex of the god equipment. All are equal before the law. It is a famous, shameless move. This simplified version of the incantation of law is naturally far from the effects of the god equipment. It can only lower a single stat of the opponent, and the minimum time required to chant the incantation is 6 seconds. The duration of the incantation is only 10 seconds. However, if it is successfully cast, it is extremely disgusting. My strength instantly drops to 16 on my stats window. Now that our basic stats are the same, Momo has a 40 level advantage over me. It is a piece of cake for her to suppress me in a clash of swords. Should I say that I reap what I sow? At this moment, Momo's heavy sword strikes consecutively. Dang, dang, dang. Sounds of swords clashing against one another. The situation turns around, and I am forced to retreat from the attacks. Darn it, 6-5-4. I still have to endure for 3 seconds. I grit my teeth and endure the attacks. I intend to endure through these 10 seconds. However, on the 7th second, the heavy sword suddenly lightens, and I return to my normal state. At that moment, I think of the race talent that I just obtained. The effect of the Titan body is actually effective against the state of law, as expected of a diamond-ranked race talent. Titan body, diamond-ranked race talent, your physical body contains the primal power of the Titan. Your skin is becoming more and more similar to Titan metal. All damage and negative effects are reduced by 30%. All damage is reduced by 5 points. This is the race talent that I awakened after my stamina broke through the limit of 20 points. Although the description is simple, the effects are extremely useful. Exquisite two-handed sword, steel, attack power, 0-8 system notice. 2 lousy swords that cost 10 gold coins. Do you still expect a system notice? I'm speechless. You have the nerve to use such a lousy sword. I feel embarrassed for you. Actually, I still have a few good swords here, and they are very cheap. Of course, a little troublesome curse won't be a problem for you. Actually, I'm still a little resentful that you haven't turned into a girl. Why don't you try the lottery? If it's the spring of the drowned woman, I have a lot of them here. It would be a pity to waste them. All right, the fact that I have been scammed consecutively has made me realize the need to cherish my life and distance myself from the system. Let us ignore the strange resentment of this darn system. Returning to the main topic, if I were to use this lousy sword to slash myself without any additional strength, even if I were to deal the highest damage, I would only be able to deal 2 points of damage. Furthermore, there is an 80% chance that I would be completely ignored. Even if my opponent has additional strength, I am wearing the knight's armor, which provides outstanding defense. At this moment, under the effects of the Titan body, the 10-second duration of the law incantation is forcefully reduced to 7 seconds. This is out of everyone's expectations. In a real battle, every second counts, not to mention a full 3 seconds of miscalculation. Thus, taking advantage of the other party's opening, I forcefully knock and twist my sword, sending Momo's mithril two-handed sword flying into the sky. Then, while the opponent's attention is distracted by the flying sword, I suddenly increase my speed and slam into her. The full-powered charge of a holy knight who has 20 points of strength and is fully armored, that is equivalent to a miniature train. In an instant, Momo is sent flying. Even though she managed to stab her sword into the ground in time to adjust her balance and stand her ground, her head is already spinning. A silver-rank knight who has lost her balance? She is just a large metal can as a stationary target. Thus, I make use of this opportunity to use another diamond rank race talent. Since it awakened after my strength reaches 20 points, it should be a powerful offensive ability. The light of order descends upon my sword. Take this, sword of order. However, before I can finish my words, I am suddenly pulled away by a huge force, and my black iron sword is blocked. Enough, Momo. Don't look down on others. From the moment I was forced to use the law incantation, Roland has already won. Come, according to our agreement, apologize to Roland. All right, in front of the legend rank Holy Knight Diana, a bronze rank Holy Knight like me isn't enough. I am stopped in an instant. At this moment, I remember that Momo was the one who boasted shamelessly about how she could defeat me easily with just her swordsmanship. However, not only did she use the law incantation, she was even suppressed. According to our agreement, I should have won. Even though I won this time, it actually revealed many of my flaws. Even though I should have an overwhelming advantage in swordsmanship and battle experience, there are many times when my eyes and thoughts are able to react in time, but my physical body isn't able to react in time. This isn't a problem with the fusion of my physical body. Rather, it is due to the lack of training for my newborn physical body. I haven't gone through the training to carve swordsmanship techniques into my body as though they are instinctive. This is the reason why I act so arrogantly. I smile and shake my head at Momo, who is reluctantly apologizing, indicating that I don't mind it. However, my thoughts are elsewhere. Looks like I have been slacking recently. I have forgotten what my foundation is. Let's start from swinging my sword 10,000 times a day and slowly recover. However, what is surprising is that when I am swinging my sword alone in my tent in the middle of the night, an unfamiliar visitor suddenly interrupts my training plan. Moon Knight Diana sneaks into my tent with an embarrassed blush on her face. Is this the legendary Night Raid? Father of the Kingdom of Heaven, the resurrection is too amazing. To think that I, Roland, would also have such a day. As expected of the legendary Dark Elves, to be so proactive. I'm so lucky. But then, thinking about my little friend who is still in puberty, I almost cry tears of blood on the spot. How unfortunate. Is there anything more unfortunate than this? However, the moment Diana opens her mouth, I know that I have jinxed it once again. The god of misfortune is still on my side. Roland, no, Lich Roland, Lord Womians, long time no see. Chapter 73. Are you Lord Roland, Lord Womians, Little Rolo, or all three? In a tent in the middle of the night, when a man and a woman are alone, there is often an ambiguous atmosphere. However, following Diana's question, in an instant, the ambiguous atmosphere dissipates. An indescribable sense of dejection and helplessness causes me to silently lower my head. As expected, I knew it. My luck with women in this life is only the calamity of love and not my luck with love. Those who occasionally fall for me are either demons, bone dragons, or perverted homicidal maniacs. This is how I will be for the rest of my life, destined to never gain the favor of a normal woman. All right, being discovered by her is within my expectations. What makes me dejected is that I am destined for the calamity of love and not my luck with love. However, I only thought that I would be discovered as the Lich Roland and that Womian's identity would be exposed. I really didn't expect it. The reason why I am certain that I have been discovered? That day, that foolish little Red, the moment she saw me, she laughed so hard that she was rolling on the ground. She even shouted out my name amidst her mocking laughter. In their nest, the voice of a giant dragon is similar to thunder. Back then, Diana, who sent me here, wasn't too far away. If she isn't deaf, it would be weird if she didn't notice me. Then, Lord, what should I call you? Roland. Roland is fine. Anyway, the pronunciation is the same. However, how did you connect my current appearance with Rollo and the others? Right now, I do need a reliable assistant. Even if she didn't look for me, I would have looked for her sooner or later. However, I'm a little curious as to how I managed to reveal my identity. Your ring and that little cat. All right, smack in my head, I finally know where the problem lies. On my right hand is Eliza's ring and that little cat that the Queen of Banshees transformed into has appeared in front of Diana before. For a legend rank knight, it isn't difficult for her to have sharp eyes. It is natural for her to recognize me. All right, the reason why you avoided the crowd to look for me tonight isn't just to expose my identity, right? Or rather, you have private matters to discuss with me. The gray elf, who was so valiant just a second ago, suddenly lowered her head. Then, she nodded her head shyly. She blushed all the way to my ears, but I opened my mouth wide and accidentally dropped the cup on the ground. Could it be that spring has really come? She likes me? The dark elf in front of him was a rare conscience in the entire town's security. She was a unique and eccentric dark elf. She was known for her conservatism and inflexibility. Because of this, she was even called the dwarf with the shell of a dark elf. She had a good reputation in the city. However, due to his legend-rank strength and identity as the town security captain, as well as his legendary feat of bringing his tribesmen thousands of miles away, there were already people comparing him to the legendary Grey Elf Ranger, Drizzt. His young pursuers all felt that they were unworthy of him, which was why he had remained single until now. But now, he was actually having feelings for me, a stranger. I pinched my cheeks. It really hurt. It shouldn't be a dream. Almighty system, I won't insult you anymore. Thank you for giving me 19 points of charm. System bless me. The next attribute point that increases will also be charm. Haha. Relying on one's face to make a living is the hard truth. A holy knight is a knight with a face. The era of Roland, has finally arrived. Finally, Diana, who was playing with her fingers with a red face and her head down, gathered her courage. My lord, yes, I'm here. I have something that I am a little embarrassed to say. I would like to consult you on. I love things that people are embarrassed to say the most. You won't mock me, right? You are obviously a holy knight. To think that you would do such a shameless thing. I won't. I love shameless things the most. That's great, my lord. I knew that I would be able to trust you. Please guide the path for the lost me. I have lost myself in my faith in the holy light. What? Seemingly realizing that what she said was too simple, Diana hurriedly added a whole bunch of things. It turns out that the shameless thing that Diana was talking about was that as a holy knight, she realized that she had unknowingly betrayed her own faith. It turns out that she, like most of the Dark Elves, believed in the Spider Queen Rose. However, she, who hated competition, chose to believe in the Holy Light. However, from the very start, the Holy Light viewed the undead and demons as mortal enemies. In that battle, the undead who turned into Valkyrie were not as evil and disorderly as the teachings described them to be. Thus, she started to doubt her own faith in the Holy Light. Due to my appearance, the originally small crack became a huge hole. I ascended to the position of the God of Law as the undead god, and now, the incarnation that I sent is actually able to use the Holy Light. Could it be that the undead are not evil? Could it be that the God of Law and the God of Holy Light are the same God? My actions were basically overturning the very foundation of the Holy Light's teachings. This fact that destroyed her worldview directly caused her faith to waver, and she hoped that I would point out the right path for her. It turns out that she thought that I was the incarnation sent by the God of Law, which was why she maintained such a weird silence along the way. At this moment, she even asked me for guidance on her faith. Hearing this, I suddenly felt my blood pressure rising and my eyes turning bloodshot. In an instant, I understood the beastman's berserk battle technique. So this fellow really treated me as a priest. What happened to the flirty talk? What happened to the beauty's night assault? What happened to the dark elf's instincts and tricks? What the heck? A beauty looking for you to guide her on the path of faith in the middle of the night. I am not a priest to the holy light. What are you looking for me for? I am a man, not a beast. I know how to transform at midnight. All right, I know that my little companion can't do anything, but chatting with her to nurture our relationship for the future shouldn't be a problem. As an experienced mage, a nameless flame burned in my chest. I secretly made up my mind. Since you are seeking guidance from me, I will teach you what gods are and what faith is. Firstly, I am not the incarnation of the God of Law. I am a living mortal. Actually, let me tell you the secrets of gods. Firstly, all the teachings of the true gods are bullsh asterisk T. I activated the magic ring's anti-detection barrier. Despite being an existence that is just a step away from becoming a true god, I am revealing the secrets of the gods without any respect. True gods are just a unique existence. They rely on faith to survive and evolve. You can view them as a part of the world. It wouldn't be too far from being a parasite on the world system. Thus, under the urge of the nameless flame, I tried my best to say the worst and worst things to the other party. I believe that after this night ends, the so-called wavering of faith will become a joke. I can guarantee that she will be the same as me. After fully understanding what a god is, she will treat faith in a true god as a joke. In summary, the gods of order are pitiful worms that are mixed with the concept of order. The God of Holy Light is even more so a pitiful worm that doesn't even have a sense of self. Regardless of whether it is my clone, the God of Law, Womians, or that nameless God of Holy Light, they're just God power servers that follow a certain set of rules. They're machines similar to Roland 2. Since they are rigid machines, as long as they follow their rules, it wouldn't be difficult to borrow their power. The teachings of the God of Law are set by me, a mortal. Since he is the incarnation of the concept of justice, even I am unable to leave a backdoor. Even if I lose my sense of self, I will still be able to treat all prayers and salvation from the mortal world fairly and justly. As for the teachings of the God of Holy Light, they're made up by those from the Holy Church. On top of the concept of purification, they added many fragmented concepts. These are probably things that even the God of Holy Light wouldn't be able to understand. So why should you be troubled over those messy teachings? If the God of Holy Light is the incarnation of the concept of purification, then the God of Law is indeed the incarnation of the concept of justice. The most obvious example of this is the concept of equality, which brings both sides to the same level. However, if the God of Law is able to leave a backdoor behind, then how can he be considered as a God of justice? However, sometimes there is no need to leave a backdoor behind when one is cheating. The fact that Womians ascended to the God throne as my clone is an important backdoor that I left behind. Of course, I won't tell Diana about these deeper secrets, but just this alone is enough to destroy the worldview of the legend Holy Knight and cause her faith to collapse. And this is exactly the result that I want. The situation that I am facing in the future is far too grim. On the surface where I have no kin, I need a helper. A helper who is willing to work for me wholeheartedly, a powerful trump card that can help me grow stronger once again, an assistant who truly trusts me. However, what is puzzling is that even in Sulphur Mountain City, where experts are as common as clouds, there is basically no one who is able to act as a trump card and move freely in human society. Needless to say, the Undead District and the Shiloh Royalty faction, if they were to head to the human kingdoms on the surface, it would be equivalent to the dead declaring war on the living. It is the same for the 4 heavenly kings of law under me. Kale. Dia lacks mobility and stamina. High elves are too conspicuous in human society. Previously, he was still a senator of the country of law. The moment he appears, he would cause countless disturbances. It is the same for the other heavenly kings of law. There is only to talk about Lilith, who is a blood tribe. Kevin is a human, but he is burdened by his work and family. A gold-ranked Justice Knight isn't as effective as a trump card. As for the most powerful candidate for my assistant, even if Eliza, as a hidden heavenly king, is still in Sulphur Mountain City, I definitely wouldn't dare to bring her along. After all, it is an impossible task to find a race whose reputation is even worse than the demons. The physical characteristics of the demons are so obvious, and the power of chaos around them is even more eye-catching. Any holy knight would be able to notice them. As for the Naked King, even if I am willing to bring him along, and the Supreme Court of Sulphur Mountain City is willing to release him, I would have to put a collar around his neck and disguise him as a tyrant slave. After all, most beastmen are either enemies or slaves in the eyes of humans on the surface. As for the town security, unless they are willing to endure the life-threatening moonlight ritual, otherwise, considering the terrible reputation of dark elves on the surface where they can be burned to death, bringing them along would definitely bring trouble upon themselves. In the end, even though I have many experts under me, in order to not be labeled as a heretic or a different race, I am not suitable to bring anyone along. Thinking about it, this innocent gray elf legend rank holy knight is the most suitable candidate. Not only is she trustworthy, her fighting skills are strong enough, and her potential is limitless. Of course, most importantly, her personality is innocent and easy to fool. History has proven that her potential is limitless. This is also why I said that even if she doesn't come looking for me, I will go looking for her. She is foolish, strong, and pleasing to the eyes. What a good bodyguard. All right, after confirming the target, a certain unscrupulous person stepped up his efforts to bluff her. In order to entice the other party to become my subordinate, I also vaguely revealed my grand plan to her, causing her to struggle between her heart and her actions. In the end, when the sky was just beginning to brighten, Diana said that she needed to go back and think about it for a while. When she stood up to leave, her beautiful eyes were bloodshot after not sleeping for an entire night. The female knight, who is usually valiant and heroic, looked dispirited. She looked so haggard, as if she had just been dragged into an alley by a dozen orcs and spent the night there. Seeing her hesitation, I nodded my head in satisfaction. Based on my understanding of her, I guessed that the result of her consideration would most likely be satisfactory to me. Then, looking at the gradually brightening sky, I felt a little tired after a sleepless night. I prepared to make use of the last 1 to 2 hours of sleep to return to sleep. But before I could even close my eyes for 10 minutes, in a daze, I was attacked by a ferocious hound. Bastard, what did you do to Big Sister? The enraged female elf barged into my tent with a sword in hand. Without saying a word, she flipped my bedboard upside down with a kick. What? Momo has never seen Big Sister so haggard before. She was even crying as she walked. What did you do to Big Sister? Could it be that you still forced yourself on her because your techniques were too bad? Big Sister is really pitiful. It was clearly her first time, yet she met a useless, silver-looking wax spearhead like you. She must have left behind sad memories. What the heck is going on? Looking at her messy clothes and bloodshot eyes, she might have been eavesdropping outside for the entire night. I rejoiced inwardly that in order to talk about the secrets of the gods, I activated an anti-eavesdropping spell early on. However, Momo got more and more excited as she spoke. I told you, you can't just look at a man's outer appearance. There are many things that can be seen but can't be used. If I knew that this would be the result, I would have stopped Big Sister before she entered your tent and let Momo teach you a few moves first. Although Momo doesn't have any experience, Momo has read a lot of books and interacted with her sister a lot. Combining theory with practice, she will definitely let you guys have a perfect first experience. You guys will feel extremely comfortable. Every time I felt that I was lacking in moral integrity with the darn system, I would look at the manly female members of the town security army who should be censored with their words and actions. I would always feel that I was still a moral person, a noble person, a person who had transcended from vulgar interests. All right, I, who was lacking in sleep to begin with, was disrupted. Naturally, I was furious. What happened next was a reenactment of the night duel from the day before. After this baffling duel ended, I went to fetch a basin of water. To my surprise, I realized that everyone was looking at me differently. Looking at the perverted hand gesture of the two flower protectors, as a man, I instantly understood. Even with the cover of the night, the stealthy skills of an armored knight are definitely insufficient. Her clanking as she snuck into my tent wasn't able to hide from anyone. When everyone saw that Diana stayed in the tent for an entire night and walked out in the morning with bloodshot eyes and a dispirited expression, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I were to jump into the Yellow River. This time, even Kolos, who was rather close to me, distanced herself from me. She looked at me as though she was looking at something filthy. After all, in her eyes, Diana and I didn't know each other for such a thing to happen. No matter how she looked at it, I was a super playboy. All right, if something really happened, I would admit to it. However, I am really innocent. If I were to say that Diana and I only talked about faith in gods for an entire night, and that it was a pure relationship between a man and a woman, even I wouldn't believe it. Considering that Kolos might be able to play a role in my future plans, I could only thicken my skin and strike up a conversation with her, try my best to explain to her. However, from her guarded gaze, the effect wasn't very good. What happened next made me unable to extricate myself from this matter. Not far away, Diana removed her heavy armor and wore a thin shirt. Carrying the sacred sword Silver Avenger, she walked towards me slowly with a solemn expression. That expression of realization made her look like a saintess who was about to sacrifice herself on the altar. Just as she walked in front of me with a stern expression, she suddenly knelt on the ground. Then, she slowly raised her arms and offered her sacred sword to me. My lord, I vow to follow your teachings for the rest of my life and become your most reliable pillar of support. Your enemies will become the target of my sword, and your happiness will be my greatest glory. To become your possession that you are proud of, this will be my life's goal. All right, I instantly understood. Kneeling on one knee is the act of a knight pledging his loyalty to his lord. With both knees, he can only kneel to his elders and the gods in the sky. She is worshiping me as a true god. This ambiguous oath at the start is just a prayer to declare her faith and obedience to a true god. However, I understood it while others didn't. Big Sister, Roland, what kind of sorcery did you use on Big Sister to actually bewitch her? I will fight it out with you. All right, a fierce dog instantly turned into a rabid dog. This undisguised killing intent, along with the wind pressure of the sword, it is obvious that she is serious. I already said that those elves and humans are unreasonable. Look, it has only been a few days, and they're already hooking up. Look at that human male. He always has a perverted smile on his face. One look, and you can tell that he isn't a good person. Ingo, BR, you actually dare to slander my reputation. I will definitely take revenge on you. Also, how is that a perverted smile? It is obviously the standard smile of the 59-style Holy Knight. It is a weapon to obtain the donations of noble women and a secret manual that I spent a long time to master. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. All right, if this wasn't the praise of a delinquent dwarf who was involved in prostitution, gambling, and drugs, I would have happily accepted it. TSK, what is there to look at about a female without any hair on her face? This is... All right, everyone knows who this existence with a unique sense of beauty is. How unfortunate. Stop chasing me. I really only chatted with your big sister for an entire night. The one who screams in agony is me, who threw my sword in the tent and tried my best to avoid the rabid dog's pursuit. Is that possible? You wouldn't even talk for an entire night, unless you are impotent or a brat who hasn't matured yet. You're going too far, I will fight it out with you. All right, a certain someone accidentally stepped on his sore spot and turned around to fight with Momo. Chapter 74. Walking on the familiar streets of Vance, looking at the endless flow of people, The mood is completely different this time. It is still the same sparse crowd, but compared to the tense atmosphere during the Alliance Treaty, it is much better. After we fended off Vance, the shadows behind us disappeared one by one. Other than that silly cow who returned the way he came, the others disappeared into the underground tunnel, obviously heading to the surface. At this moment, while the merchant group is preparing in Vance, I intend to do some private matters. For example, changing that darn broken iron sword and registering a small mercenary group here to make things more convenient. Mercenary group? Us. There's no need for that. Momo is obviously anxious to leave this city. Yes, it will be much more convenient to travel on the surface with the identity of a mercenary. I don't want to serve those humans. Of course, we just need to establish a group and not do any missions. I don't have that much time to wander around. It's just a name. We can use the name of a mission to go to the various checkpoints. After passing through the Donlon Principality, we still have to pass through a few countries. It will be much more convenient to get a mercenary qualification. I can borrow one then. Then why do we need to register as a mercenary group here? Isn't it better to register on the surface? Momo and I chatted casually at the entrance of a mercenary association. At the side, a bunch of dark elves who provoked us are lying on the ground. The moonlight ritual doesn't come without a price. The right to travel on the surface has to be exchanged with one's life. To Rose, who has always viewed the entire dark elf race as her exclusive property, this action of changing her faith to the moonlight goddess is equivalent to slapping her in the face. Furthermore, when Rose slaps herself in the face, she usually flips the table. Gray elves are always the special offerings of Rose in the dark elf family. The news of 2 gray elves appearing in the city would probably spread to all the dark elf families not long after we entered the city. Perhaps before they could even lay their hands on us, they might even start fighting amongst themselves. Thus, even though time is tight, I insisted on registering as a mercenary group here. Naturally, Momo, who is in a hurry to escape, doesn't understand my actions. Although every country has a mercenary association, from a certain perspective, mercenaries are also a backup force of the local government and country. If you register on the surface and a war breaks out at the place where you register, wouldn't you be dragged into it as well? I see. It does make sense. Momo nodded in agreement. Madam, although this young man is telling the truth is not the main point. Even if the country perishes, free mercenaries will not go to the battlefield for free. That kind of war mobilization has always been a decoration for the deaf. This little brother's current motive should be to make use of the fact that the Vance Mercenary Association is probably the only organization in the world that doesn't require any proof of identity to make his identity untraceable. Many wanted criminals and assassins do this. It was a rather handsome centaur. His upper body was covered in purple bronze soft armor, while his lower body was covered in light horse armor. The bone bow on his back shone with an orange arcane light. It was obviously not an ordinary item. Cassio? Yes, sir. Although I don't know how you managed to convince my stubborn grandfather to let me out. Since the old chieftain had given an order, I will obey it. The one in front of me is one of the grandsons of old Miniel, as well as the brother of the new beastman Sovereign Anya in name. However, different from the other brothers who dote on Anya, Cassio is rather ambitious. What gives one a headache is that he has the ability and prestige to turn his ambition into reality. After going through several wars with the outside world, the gold-ranked Bao Cassio became a famous hero of the tribe. However, to old Miniel, it would be a pity to kill this ambitious grandson. However, if he were to die, the possibility of him rebelling is too high, and it would be hard for Anya to suppress it. Thus, when I asked old Miniel to borrow an outstanding centaur archer from a certain channel, old Miniel thought of this gold-ranked Bao without hesitation. At this moment, Cassio stands there quietly, as though he is a healthy and beautiful statue of a hero. He doesn't seem to be bothered by the outside world, but looking at his trembling ears and the fingers that stroke the arrow from time to time, nothing that happens in the surroundings can escape his senses. Sir, are we going to register now? No. Let's wait for one more person. I have arranged to meet him here. Looking at how the dark elves fear this local bully and don't dare to step forward to cause trouble. At least for now, the arrival of this respectful and courteous Cassio is a good thing. However, to be able to scare the cunning dark elves to the point that they don't even dare to approach him shows how scary this man is. He is completely incomparable to that foolish, unlucky fellow. No wonder old Menial would happily kick him out of the door. The reason why he brought along a centaur archer is because the weakness of the three of us knight who don't have a mount is too obvious: our short legs. Due to the existence of centaur tribes in quite a few of the kingdom of the elves on the surface, the centaurs are one of the few beastman races that are able to survive on both the surface and the underground. As long as we do a little disguise, no one would be able to guess that Cassio comes from the underground. The other person makes up for our other weakness. Very quickly, the person I am waiting for arrives. However, rather than calling that fellow a human, it would be more accurate to call him a humanoid armor. A gray, gigantic, heavy armor covers everything. Outside of the bizarre bird helmet, I can only faintly see two bright eyes. Behind his back is a 3-meter-long spear, a pair of swords by his waist, and a dwarven gun. His bizarre equipment makes it impossible for me to recognize his specific job. However, looking at the string of dwarven hand grenades by his waist and the gunpowder bag on his back, he should have just completed his huge purchase of gunpowder. Freak Prince. Back then, when we were stationed at the outskirts of Van City, Momo had met this Iron City's Prince Grimm. At this moment, she shudders and instinctively takes 2 steps back. Of course, I know why she retreats in fear. That Prince Grimm is basically a humanoid gunpowder warehouse. Furthermore, he is obviously a war maniac and is inconceivably sensitive. If I accidentally bump into him, it would explode. If I suddenly pass by him, it would explode. If I enter his room without his permission, it would still explode. Alright, even if I don't do anything, as long as I'm not too far away from him, it is possible for me to explode. However, he is different from the BR brothers who always involve themselves in trouble. His explosions are all related to traps and mechanisms. It is obvious that they are controlled and intentional. He doesn't trust anyone and is always on his guard. This is obviously related to his growth. I'm also not some psychotherapist who is able to treat his war syndrome. The reason why I asked him to come is that his sense of vigilance and instincts will be useful to me. On a journey, the easiest thing to lose one's life isn't a strong enemy in the open, but a dagger in the back and a venomous snake in the bushes. I have a premonition that his sense of danger will be of great use. Grimm, nice to meet you. I am Roland, Holy Knight Roland. You should have received the notice. In this temporary team, you will listen to me. The man with the helmet nods his head silently, indicating that he has no objections. All right, everyone is here. Let's go in. I hope that Diana has already completed her cleaning mission. Yes, cleaning mission. In front of the window for handing emissions, there are already a bunch of reckless mercenaries lying on the ground. They are the targets to be cleaned. This isn't the first time that I have mingled with mercenaries. If these fellows who sell their lives for money were to see a newcomer of the same trade, most of them would try out the newcomer. This is to fight for the resources for the mission, and from a certain perspective, it is also a blessing for the newbies. Of course, passing the test is a blessing. If they fail, it is a cruel baptism. As for me, since there is bound to be a clash, then I might as well throw the legend rank Holy Knight Diana to them to crash into a metal plate. Obviously, the clash is already over. The unlucky fellows lying on the ground are the losers. Slowly walking to Diana's side, I put on a standard 59-style business smile and say to the service staff, "Register a small mercenary group. I am the leader, and this beautiful lady is the vice leader." All right. The ones lying on the ground are the backbone of the association. If they don't know that they have met with a tough opponent at this moment, they would really be fools. May I know the name of the mercenary group? Momo and her companions. All right, everyone ignores this female elf who is trying to act cute on purpose. Law and Holy Light. We have a Justice Knight and a Holy Knight. I think it is very fitting. Diana says hesitantly. I shake my head. From a certain perspective, this name is also a vexation of Diana herself. Relying on both sides is equivalent to not touching either side. It isn't good to keep hesitating. I say a few more words with a hidden meaning. Diana hesitates for a moment before nodding her head in the end. Then law and justice. I still shake my head. This means that the restrictions of a mercenary group that is connected to the god of law are too strong. It is easy to cause inexplicable disputes. Thus, I toss out the good name that I have prepared for a long time. This is a name that sounds much better than Ah Dang and Ah Bee. New Free Gentleman Alliance. In an instant, the faces of the two former town security members collapse. One pulls out his sword while the other stares angrily. How can they accept the name of their old enemy? I agree. The name Gentleman Alliance sounds nice. However, a familiar figure suddenly appears in front of us. In an instant, as though we have suddenly met a gigantic nightmare, we instinctively take 2 steps back. Bayfoam, why are you here? Of course, it is to travel to the surface with you guys. Nonsense. Didn't you say that you want to go on a journey to find yourself? All right, looking at how he stares straight at the centaur archer while drooling, I know his true goal. I say, don't even think about it. It is impossible for us to let you join us. Actually, my strength is not bad. I am definitely a qualified beast hunter. Of course, I know that he is definitely a qualified beast hunter. Otherwise, he would have been beaten to death after causing so much trouble. Based on his love for pets, I wouldn't be surprised if he were to condense a soul imprint like the love of the beast to advance into a legend. However, even if a beast tamer possesses decent long-range attack capabilities and is able to use pets for scouting and sentry purposes, which is obviously an ability that we need, I still look for Cassio and Clint. I just don't want to be together with this pervert. However, I feel that the Gentleman Alliance isn't enough to describe our surging passion. I suggest calling it the Wild Brothers Club. All right, he seemed to have long considered himself as a member of the team, and he actually wanted to write down this strange name with a pen. Stop. Don't even think about it. All right, the 2 town security members can no longer hold back the excitement in their hearts. Just like before, they use their fists to express their deep feelings. As for me, I make use of the chaos to get in front of the counter and say to the confused attendant, Absolute Gentleman Alliance, thank you. Chapter 75. Lensburg, or Lensburg Fortress, is the closest city to the exit of the underground tunnel that we chose. Situated in the Chur Highlands, Lensburg Fortress is located in the interior of the Ming Kingdom. Yet, it is one of the few fortified cities in the entire country. The thick and heavy brick walls are both beautiful and sturdy under the design of a master architect. The 10-meter-tall and 3-meter-thick walls were built in the imagination of the giant race. The long moat is filled with hungry piranhas. The reason? They have a good neighbor. The entrance to the underground world is wide open, allowing anyone to enter and anyone to exit. The seasonal raids of the underground beastmen, the traditional trial of the dark elves hunting the surface elves in the middle of the night, the black dragons and red dragons occasionally flying out of the underground tunnel for a change, the mages and necromancers who sneak out to look for experimental subjects, the demons who search for offerings, the worshippers of the malevolent gods. All right, even I feel that there's a reason why the residents of the underground world are exiled and viewed as enemies. At the very least, in the underground tunnel alone, we met 3 dark elves raiding parties and 2 beastmen patrolling parties. The latter bowed and left upon seeing Cassio, while the former was stunned upon seeing the gray elves. Then, without hesitation, they changed their target for the trial and charged towards us. All right, originally, after forming the team, I was intending to do some training to test the strength of the newcomers. However, when Cassio raised his bow and bow and did a round of roll call with his golden arrows, someone shouted out the name Gold-Ranked Bow, and the dark elves immediately retreated. Of course, Cassio's valiant appearance when he shot his arrows was indeed impressive, completely different from the muddle-headed Anya. However, when I saw a certain beast tamer drooling over Cassio with green eyes, I started to worry for this centaur hero. Gold-ranked? If he isn't even 30 yet, that means that he has just reached adulthood among the centaurs. Not bad, but compared to that gold-ranked beast tamer half-dragon, he is still lacking by a little. especially since that fellow is definitely the type to achieve his goals by hook or by crook. The more outstanding you are, the more dangerous it is. I wanted to remind this centaur, but along the way, Bayphone was chatting happily with him, making me at a loss as to how to do it. If one only looked at Bayfing's outer appearance, he was tall and burly, with a simple and unadorned face. The impression he gave others was not bad, but that deep and strong voice was always slow and gentle, and the way he spoke was humorous and knowledgeable, giving off the feeling of a mature elder and a philosopher. All right, it is precisely because his appearance is good and he is eloquent that there are so many victims and he is such a great threat to society. This image of a loyal older brother, along with an appropriate amount of kindness and a sincere, silly smile, was especially to Cassio's liking since he seemed cold but was actually worried about his future. The most important thing was that Bayphone played along with the young centaur's way of speaking. Very soon, after the initial test, and with Bayfing's hard work, the two of them began chatting and laughing. Diana couldn't stand it anymore and kindly went over to remind him. However, she was clumsy and didn't manage to say anything. Instead, she was pushed back by Bayphone. Intelligent creatures have such shallow views. They're used to making judgments based on the species and appearance of living beings. Yes, I'm a draken with the black dragon's bloodline, but those who are familiar with me know that I love all life and small animals. I'm a draken with the bloodline of the black dragon, but those who are familiar with me would know that I am very gentle. All right, his hurt gaze makes it seem as though he has suffered a huge grievance, as though Diana is a racist bad person. Under Cassio's furious glare, the kind-hearted Diana is unable to speak of those disgusting filth and could only shake her head and retreat. Big sis, you really are a busybody. Won't that centaur brat know in 2 days? But by then, it will already be too late. Pooh, as expected, the more innocent a person is, the more imagination they have. Hearing the words "it will be too late," the others burst into laughter. Then, they look at the famous gold bow with a playful gaze, especially the armor on his lower body. Brat who doesn't know the harm of Bayphone. Sing the flowers of the backyard again the next day. All right, I don't know who came up with a crooked poem, but the comical tone and lyrics made everyone burst into laughter. Facing Diana's questioning gaze of, "How can you be like this?" at the very least, I won't admit that it was a momentary inspiration of mine. The arrogant Cassio ignored everyone after entering the group. He even pretended not to hear Kolos's polite greetings. Along the way, he even used their race to address others. "Hey, that goblin," "Hey, that fat human," easily offending quite a few people. Thus, seeing Bayphone aiming at him, other than the kind-hearted Diana, no one else has the intention to expose him. They are happy to watch him make a fool of himself. After which, other than being ambushed by the dark elves near the exit, the journey can be considered as smooth sailing. However, after walking into the underground world, bathing in the familiar yet unfamiliar warm sunlight, looking at the boundless blue sky and the vast land that I couldn't see the end of, even I felt a little emotional. The Roland sacred sword by my waist is also resonating slightly, as though expressing its impatience. The direction it wishes to head to is naturally the north of the continent. Donlon Principality? Descendant of the Mist? I would like to test him out. If he isn't able to meet my requirements, it would be a disgrace to this glorious name. Shaking my head, I toss the unnecessary thoughts to the back of my head. Turning around, I see that my companions in the merchant group aren't in a good state. Momo, who is usually ridiculously energetic, is sitting on the ground with her eyes closed. On the other hand, Diana is half kneeling with a pale face. Her mouth is muttering something, as though she is praying. "I won't fall up, I won't fall up." When I get closer, I realize that she is actually muttering to herself. In an instant, I can't help but laugh. This was not a rare problem. Even on the surface, if a miner came out to look at the sky after staying underground for a long time, he would have the illusion that he would be grabbed by the sky at any time and fall from the sky when he saw the boundless sky from a narrow hole in the ground. This is an instinctive feeling of living beings. The experienced miner would recover after a while, but to the dark elves who have spent their entire lives in the underground world, it isn't easy to deal with. Born in the underground world, they are already used to being above the clouds and the dark cliff walls. They are even more used to the first ray of light being brought in by the glowing moss on the cliff walls. When the seemingly natural top of the cliff suddenly disappears, it is as though the humans living on the surface have suddenly lost the sun and blue sky. Even if their rationality knows that it is fine, it is inevitable for them to feel extreme discomfort in their body and mind. Based on what I know, this kind of instinctive reaction, nicknamed as fear of open lands, requires at least a few months to overcome. There are also quite a few who fail to overcome it in their entire lives. The Gray Elves, who are afraid of light to begin with, are in the worst condition. They are immediately allowed to rest on the carriage. As for Cassio, even though his hooves are trembling slightly, he still pretends to be calm and tries his best to stand straight. As for Ingo, Hoyle, and the other old foxes, they have been to the surface world for God knows how many times. The few fellows from the Law faction are the same as well. They're already happily doing whatever they need to do. As for Grim, it should be his first time on the surface world. With his thick armor and bird helmet, it is impossible to see his expression. However, from the way he is constantly groping for the grenades by his waist, it seems like he isn't having a good time either. Currently, he needs a sense of security from the explosives. Why? Is there one person missing? All right, I have already intentionally neglected him. You all still want to mention him? Aren't you courting death? Are you all right? Why don't you rest on the carriage for a while? No, there's no need. I'm fine. Looking at the disdainful faces of the others, even if it is Big Brother Bafing's sincere concern, how can the stubborn young centaur admit defeat in front of everyone? Then, brother, let me lean on you. I'm feeling a little dizzy. The black draken suddenly sits on the ground and leans on the belly of Cassio's horse. Cassio is taken aback for a moment before coming to a realization. A smile appears on his cold and arrogant face. All right, since that is the case, I will let you lean on me for a while. Thus, the arrogant centaur prince bends his hooves and sits down like a war horse, allowing Beifong to lean on the side of his stomach. Slowly, after sitting on the ground and feeling the warmth of his comrade and the sturdy ground, the young centaur prince's frantic heartbeat slows down. His fear of open lands is greatly alleviated. After which, the iceberg of the centaur prince, who is cold on the outside, but warm on the inside, finally melts and smiles gratefully. Thank you, Big Brother Beifong. Why are you thanking me? I should be the one thanking you. Hee hee. Big Brother, you're the best. You haven't seen the best parts of me yet. There will be chances in the future. While chatting, the centaur prince and draken lean against each other. Their hands even accidentally touch each other before hurriedly pulling away. That scene is so intimate that it is impossible to look at it directly. Looking at the frightening scene in front of me, I rub my head and secretly decide that I must quickly find a secluded corner to bury Beifong alive, so as to prevent him from polluting my eyes. Judging from the looks of those who are either gritting their teeth or vomiting, there are quite a few who have the same thought. If it wasn't for the fact that this young ace archer isn't weak, they might have already taken action. The Lensburg Castle isn't far from the entrance of the underground city, so we arrive just before sunset. When we reach there, just as we approach the city gates, we meet with a new problem. The one over there, take off your helmet for inspection. Whose slave is that draken? Does he bite? Does he have an epidemic prevention certificate? Hearing that Big Brother is being treated as an animal, the impulsive Cassio reaches for his bow, intending to kill the guard as per his usual habits. However, I hurriedly stop him. I don't want to become a wanted criminal the moment I arrive in the human kingdom. Actually, the guard's words are logical. If it wasn't for the Holy Knight accompanying us, he would have shouted for his men to surround us and attack us the moment he saw the draken. Draconians are a unique race created by humans. They are completely different from the descendants of dragons that are born from mixed blood. Although they have their own race and culture, they are indeed unnatural products. In the chaotic, immemorial era, the seven-colored evil dragon god Tiamat and the evil wizard created them to serve the evil dragons, red dragons, black dragons, blue dragons, etc., who are inclined towards chaos. Beifeng himself is a draken with the bloodline of the black dragons. On the other hand, the kind-hearted metal dragons, gold dragons, silver dragons, etc., don't have any favorable impressions of these draconians. Due to the natural suppression of their bloodline, most of the draconians are still the servants of the evil dragons. For example, as the new Dragon Queen, the dragon city that Little Red is currently building has countless draconians as servants. This is also the reason why Beifeng was able to use those words to gain Cassio's approval. Because in many places, even if the draconians are talented and possess great combat strength, they're still discriminated against due to their fate as servants. Of course, in the chaotic underground world, it is easy for black dragons and red dragons to die in battle. This way, it is easy for their servants and descendants to obtain freedom. This is probably the place with the most number of free draconians. Thus, in the eyes of humans, the black draconians are equivalent to the claws of the evil dragons. Now that there is a Saint Knight in this party, it is logical to infer that this draconian is the slave or spoil of war of a certain mage. I am the slave of this Lord Centaur. Thank you, little brother. It's fine. I have seen many of these kinds of ordinary people. Don't lower yourself to his level. Beifeng pulls the impulsive Cassio back and whispers in his ear. Furthermore, as if to not make things difficult for the other party, Beifeng even takes the initiative to admit that he is the other party's slave. In an instant, Cassio feels strangely touched. In an instant, when the two men's eyes meet, lightning sparks fly in all directions. All the affection between them is expressed in their eyes. There is no need for any unnecessary words. In the eyes of the spectators, this scene becomes unbearable once again. Ugh, Momo is going to vomit. Momo is really going to vomit. At this moment, I am seriously considering whether it is feasible to toss them aside and let them fend for themselves while I look for an archer myself. All right, after this problem was solved, there was another problem on the other side. Clint insisted on not taking off his helmet, so the city guards naturally wouldn't let him pass. Their argument attracted even more city guards. When these city guards stared at us with wary gazes, and the cannons on the city walls slowly adjusted their aim, I knew that we couldn't continue on like this. Detect evil. The effect of this one-circle divine art is that when the holy light descends, the villains, or rather, those who possess the power of chaos, will be dyed red. In an instant, the black draconians turn red while the bodies of the others radiate a faint white light. Sir Military Officer, look at the radiance on his body. He is also a kind citizen of order. However, this brother of mine has severe burns and the appearance beneath his armor is ugly. I am afraid of scaring others, so I don't dare to take it off. On the surface, I hold the hands of the guard and explain. However, with a flick of my wrist, a small pouch slides into the sleeves of the guard. Can you help me? For the sake of Bana, goddess of wealth. This isn't the first time that young Gar with a face full of pockmarks has accepted bribes. Looking left and right, and seeing that no one is paying attention to them, he flicks his sleeves once more. The sound of metal clashing resounds. Seeing that the amount isn't light, he nods his head in satisfaction. Go in. Don't cause any trouble. When our caravan enters, Harlowe's voice rings in my ears. That pouch isn't light. How much did you spend? This isn't something you're used to. Guess. I'm guessing that it's all copper coins, right? That's 30 copper coins at most. However, for a guard, it isn't a small amount. 5 gold coins. How is that possible? You miser, to think that you would suffer a loss. I have earned quite a bit before this trip. This little bit of money is nothing. No, it isn't a problem of money. It's your personality that will never suffer a loss. 5 gold coins? Is it the flower elf magic coins that will dissipate in a night? That thing is worth 100 times more than normal gold coins. Wouldn't it be a huge loss for me to pay so much in order to prevent the other party from taking advantage of me? No, based on my understanding of you. As long as you are happy, you are willing to pay any price to make others unhappy. Hey, stop keeping me in suspense. Your teacher is really curious. Then go ahead and be curious. While I exclaim at how deep this idiot cat's understanding of me is, I don't intend to reveal the answer. Based on my understanding of her, this omniscient magic pet has an endless thirst for knowledge and secrets. Once her curiosity is piqued, she will definitely get to the bottom of it. Otherwise, she won't be able to sleep for the entire night. That way, I can make use of this opportunity to achieve my goal. Hey, don't be like this. You will think about it for the entire night. How about I promise to teach you ice magic? Ice magic that even a magic idiot like you can use. You should tell me now, right? As expected, she gave in an instant, and I have achieved my goal. The current me is still too weak. Even if I am just a little stronger, it is good enough. In my current state, I can actually use necromancy and ice magic. I am also a master of necromancy, but if I were to be labeled as a necromancer because of this, I would immediately become a wanted criminal. That would be the end of my identity. Thus, even though I belong to the Chaos faction, the elemental magic that human mages of the Order faction would definitely be able to learn became my only choice. On the other hand, my knowledge of ice magic is still stuck at the level of gathering magic power to blast it. Since there's a master of all magic by my side, naturally, I would ask her for guidance. Pooey, you want me to teach this unfilial disciple of yours to be killed once again? Dream on. All right, if I used a magic pet contract to suppress her, she would indeed teach me. However, if I were to purposely miss a single point, it would be enough for me to be finished at the crucial moment. But I'm not anxious at all. She understands me, and I understand her. Actually, as long as I find the right method, this Queen of Banshees is easy to deal with. All I have to do is to wait patiently for an opportunity to pique her curiosity. As expected, not even a week after I said those arrogant words, she took the bait. Looking at the little cat who is scratching my neck with all her might, but is unable to even break through the tightened skin, I smile. All right, the mystery has been revealed. It is indeed 5 gold coins. Didn't I interrupt the training with Momo to buy 2 black iron longswords worth 10 gold coins? So, I placed a shard in that bag. It could be considered as recycling. However, it was indeed 5 gold coins in the past, and it is still worth 5 gold coins now. That longsword workmanship is shoddy, and the cost of crafting it is negligible. The cost of materials and the price of the sword are basically the same. However, I'm not so bored as to forge a new black iron sword. Impossible. When did you prepare it? I prepared it on the way here. How many years has it been? As long as I put on a good performance. This move has never failed before. Yes, I knew that there would definitely be a problem when we enter the city. That bag of shard was prepared on the way here. Even the lines of bribery and the action of giving money were rehearsed. Bastard, you dare to make a fool out of me. Brat, just you wait. The sudden shout behind me makes me shake my head. Sigh, you didn't even change the lines. It really lacks novelty. Aren't you afraid that he will lead his troops to find trouble with you? It is one thing for a small soldier to take advantage of us, but it is weird for him to call his comrades to seek revenge. If he were to slander you as a spy, wouldn't he be able to call for help? Isn't that how all-night novels are written? This is a classic plot. I look at Harlowe sympathetically. As expected, reading too many night novels will result in a brain damage. With just this level of intelligence, she claims to be an omniscient person. Then, you have to first explain why he let a spy in. Furthermore, if he finds out that we aren't spies, and it is just him making a false report for revenge, wouldn't that small soldier have to lose his head? As expected of my disciple, you are indeed a sly old fox. Thank you for your compliment, but please call him an experienced monk. The master and disciple look at each other, instantly feeling a sense of appreciation for each other. Behind us, Momo, who saw this scene, suddenly tugs on Diana's sleeves. Look at that Roland. His expression when looking at that cat is so weird, as though he is looking at it as a human. Could it be that he is the same species as Bayphone? That's why he didn't touch Big Sister that night. Ever since Diana, who was annoyed by Momo, revealed that she's still a young lady, Momo has been making all kinds of malicious guesses about Roland. Shut up. You are not allowed to mention that night. Recalling the weird gazes that everyone looked at her after that day, Diana sighs helplessly. Recently, my luck is really bad. I really offended the god of misfortune. Not long after, this complaint reached my ears, and I immediately laughed heartily. You didn't offend the god of misfortune, but the halo of calamity. Haha, I found another one whose luck is lower than mine. Nice to meet you. Unlucky lightning rod number 3. Let's get along well. Chapter 76. Borrowing the dim light from the oil lamp, I lay on the bed and read a book, waiting for the first ray of sunlight to shine into the room. The warm sunlight gradually warms my body and mind. This is an ordinary life that most people are used to, but it is my most cherished enjoyment. I didn't manage to read much of the book, but my thoughts were running wild. My mind is the clearest in the morning, and all kinds of bad ideas pop up one after another. Perhaps this is the instinct of life to yearn for the light. It has been almost half a month since I arrived at this lance fortress. Ingo's merchant group has already left. They are heading towards the Ottoman Empire to attend the inauguration ceremony of the new Emperor Dasos, and that Roland robot is the congratulatory gift. The Ottoman royalty and nobles, who are known for their extravagance, also pursue rare items. There is definitely only one such novel and interesting robot. In Ingo's calculations, this gift of a gift from 1,000 miles away is definitely a profitable investment. The merchant group has long left, but I have no intention of leaving. Every day, I only practice my swordsmanship, read books, stroll the streets, chat, and drink tea. I am as idle as a retired old man. Could it be that this fellow really came to the human world for a vacation? Amidst the confused gazes of the onlookers, I actually did many things. For example, collecting information, updating the current situation and changes in the various countries in the continent, and making adjustments for future operations. I have to say, due to the long and dangerous underground tunnel and the chaos of the underground world, a piece of news on the surface would usually become a thing of the past when it reaches the underground. Unless it is an important piece of news brought back by a spy, normal information would take at least half a year to transmit, and mistakes and errors are unavoidable. Furthermore, most of the residents of the underground world can't even finish their own lives, so how would they have the leisure to care about the surface that is thousands of miles away? Even gossip travels slowly. Thus, most of the information that Sulphur Mountain City receives comes from the idle chatter of merchants, and most of them are from 30 years ago. Wrong information can only lead to wrong judgments. Without even knowing the personalities and backgrounds of the leaders of the various countries, how can we make targeted arrangements? This point needs to be corrected. It sounds elegant and high class, but in reality, it is just reading a newspaper and reading a book. Due to the existence of the god of knowledge, the printing technology of the He continent was rather advanced. Just like the daily newspapers of Sulphur Mountain City, the Ming Dynasty United Kingdom also had its own newspaper industry. Even though the newspapers that were sent from the capital, Casserola City, to this fortress city were usually 3 months old, and there weren't many types of newspapers, it was still much better than the useless information from decades ago in the underground world. Even so, the amount of old newspapers and periodicals I had read in half a month was enough to fill 3 or 4 rooms. The evil underground world is getting restless. The legendary Underground Alliance had surfaced. Our wise King Arthur II has called for a long war. Even Molly's name was written incorrectly. The Underground Alliance has changed a long time ago. It's just as outdated information. However, to be able to foresee the underground world's plan to attack the surface 10 years in advance, and to prepare for a long period of time, it seemed that this Arthur II, who was praised as a virtuous king by the later generations, was really capable. Gathering intelligence was just a daily activity. There were many things that seemed unimportant but were actually very important to deal with. For example, identity, background, and accent. In order to blend into human society, I had to first solve these 2 problems. The way ancient people spoke and the way modern people spoke were 2 completely different concepts. Even the most commonly used common language had many different dialects and accents. This might seem like a small matter, but it was often the easiest way to reveal one's true identity. To me, learning to imitate an accent wasn't a problem. What was difficult was to remove those ancient words that had long disappeared from history. If I were to recite 300-year-old words and the grammar of the past, no matter how I looked at it, there would be a problem. In this aspect, the most important practice was to chat with others and read newspapers. In this aspect, I could only try one word at a time. It was time-consuming and exhausting, but it was already effective. In terms of identity and background, I had already made preparations long ago. Under my arrangements, a declining noble family with the background of the Mist Country had already resided in this city for more than 20 years. Their ancestor had helped the previous king fight for the throne and obtain the title of knight. Although they had already lost their noble title in this generation and were only relying on a few pieces of land to sustain their lives, they could still be considered as a member of the human nobility. They had a son, Rollo, who was suffering from leprosy. He was sent to a monastery to live a secluded life. Occasionally, he would return, but in fear of infecting others, he would be wrapped in bandages and black cloth, making it impossible for others to see his face. For years ago, perhaps due to their pious prayers being heard by the heavens, the god of holy light performed a miracle and healed the pitiful young man, bestowing him the identity of a holy knight. Inconceivably, the young man ventured into the underground world alone. In the eyes of most of the nobles in the city, this was just another propaganda story used by the Holy Church to expand their influence. Anyway, the young man wouldn't be able to return, so who knows if it was true or not. But surprisingly, there was a continuation to this story recently. Just when everyone was feeling sorry for the miraculously healed young man who rashly sent himself to his death, half a month ago, he actually returned. Furthermore, he returned with quite a bit of wealth, as if he had reaped a great harvest. His nickname was Rollo, and his full name was Roland. Now, under the influence of someone with an ulterior motive, this legendary story had already begun to spread in the city. All right, speaking of which, everyone should have guessed that the person with an ulterior motive was one of my men. Yes, this 19-year-old Rollo actually didn't exist. That family of his was sent out by me 20 years ago. The real person involved in this identity had long settled down in Sulphur Mountain City. In order to make the two identities as similar as possible, the few times that Rollo came into contact with his neighbors, I was the one who personally acted as him. In fact, I even purposely left behind some obvious traces of myself, such as the weird tone of voice and the rather weird cross-legged sitting posture. Plotting 20 years in advance just for the identity of a noble and a clean background, doesn't it seem unnecessary? No, in my eyes, this still isn't enough. Even though I felt helpless in this world as the rulers, humans are probably the most xenophobic race. If one wants to survive in the human society or climb up the ranks to become a superior noble, a noble identity that has been passed down for 3 generations is a must. If one were to be treated as a spy of another race, there would probably be nothing left to do. Of course, there are quite a few blank spots in this history. If someone were to investigate it in the future, there would definitely be suspicious points. However, suspicious points are much more trustworthy than a completely blank past. Being unclear of one's origin can be used as a weak point to be attacked. But if one were to attack the other party just because of a suspicious point at the very least, one would have to come up with evidence to prove that this identity is fake. This isn't an easy task. Recently, I have been strolling around the streets every day, greeting the neighbors' uncles, aunties, and grocery aunties. I even displayed those strange traces of myself in order to make the two identities overlap and increase the authenticity of my fake identity. But due to certain reasons, due to my pathetic luck, I went a little overboard. Pooey, Roland, I heard that you have a fetish for old ladies? Nonsense. How could there be such a ridiculous fetish? It's just that damn daily quest requires me to help old ladies cross the road 10 times. However, there aren't any so-called pedestrian crossings here, and there are even fewer horse carriages. In the end, after waiting for an entire afternoon, I only met 3 old ladies who fit the criteria. In the end, I even begged them to let me help them cross the road. In the end, my eyes lit up as I looked for old ladies everywhere, try to please them. That's how I got this bad nickname. No, I heard that it's the Wild Dog Terminator. Nonsense. Dogs are humans' best friends. I really like that quest of bathing wild dogs. It's just that the dogs don't like it. What a bunch of sharp teeth and claws. Fortunately, I have holy light, otherwise I wouldn't be able to see anyone the next day. Ah, I heard that you were caught on the spot because you followed a beauty with evil intentions. Nonsense, my goal is only to defeat evil and take care of those hoodlums. It's a pity that I didn't manage to catch a single hoodlum that day. As expected, was the Holy Knight's stealth skills lacking? As for being arrested, I am a Holy Knight, so how could they possibly arrest me? It only took a little effort to convince the guards. The end result of these quests, other than letting me deeply understand that the system is still as deceptive as ever, doing good is harder than doing bad. It also made the miraculous Roland and lucky little Roland turn into overly kind Roland, and then into that Roland next door who has water in his head, and it's a pity that the young lad's brain has been burnt by the holy light. It's fine. This way, the impression I leave on others would be deeper. Being a little silly is more in line with the character of a hot-blooded person who rushes into the underground world to die. It's a good thing, it's a good thing. This is my self-deception, filled with tears of blood. But sometimes when calamities descend one after another, when one's image collapses, there's a limit to self-deception. Good your head. The gaze of the cute lady next door at me has changed from the longing she had when she first met me to the pity of looking at a retard. There are even people shouting, "Don't give up hope, don't give up on treatment" behind my back. It has only been a week and my image has been completely destroyed. If this goes on, I will finally be able to shake off the identity of the Lich Roland who has water in his head, but I will become the Holy Knight Roland whose brain has been burnt by the holy light. But it is a pity that in order to become stronger as quickly as possible, I have no choice but to do those daily quests that are getting more and more deceptive. I'm starting to miss that evil-doing system. These days, doing good deeds is much harder than doing bad deeds. Helping an old lady cross the road is treated as an attempt to rob the elderly. Helping someone carry their luggage is treated as an attempt to steal. Volunteering to sweep the streets is treated as a lunatic. Bathing a dog and shaving its fur is treated as an attempt to make a dog meat hot pot. Can't humans have a little more trust in one another? Sir System, you win. Take pity on my ruined reputation and image. Let me go. Now, even that silly big sister Diana is looking at me strangely. When she sees me being scammed by the system, she doesn't look as surprised as before. Instead, she nods her head matter-of-factly, as though saying, "Yeah, that's how Roland should be." As expected, that dignified Judge Womians is just a facade. But today, just as I was halfway through reading the newspaper, I was attracted by a piece of news from 3 months ago. The new emperor of the powerful Ottoman Empire has ascended to the throne, including the Bubi Principality, Donglon Principality, and Kasilo Kingdom. 42 vassal states have sent their royalty to congratulate him. It is expected that during the ceremony, they will present their flags as a symbol of their loyalty and trust. Kacha. With a crisp sound, the newspaper is split into 2 halves. Vassal states, my blood surges, and I can no longer see the rest of the words. An inexplicable anger and grievance makes my heart burn, but I don't know how to vent it. Even though I already knew that the current Donglon Principality is no longer the powerful warring state that was independent for 1,000 years, and I can understand that it is international practice for a small country to submit to a large country. But when I think about how the Mist War flag, which symbolizes unyielding and protection, is actually going to be placed under the royal flag of a certain empire, an inexplicable feeling of grievance makes me so angry that I want to kill someone. Darned unfilial descendants, useless things. To think that you would actually dare to force other countries to submit to you. You have thrown away the dignity of the Mist bloodline and the 1,000 years of glory. All right, even though I know that my complaints are unreasonable, the inexplicable anger in me still causes me to fly into a rage in the room. After a long while, I finally calm down and sigh helplessly. Sigh. Actually, you can't blame them. I know that there are some things that cannot be blamed on the later generations. It is already impressive that the later generations are able to rebuild their country. If we really want to blame someone, we can only blame the previous generation's ruler. Thus, after calming down, I look at the torn newspaper once again and piece them together. Even though it is infuriating, this intelligence is indeed very important, so I have to study it carefully. The new Emperor Dasos, isn't he the king of winter wolves in history? Even though he is an unlucky fellow who was turned gay by Victoria, his achievements in history are outstanding. He is indeed not to be underestimated. When I think of Victoria, I think of Dasos' tragic ending. For some reason, my mood becomes much better. A devious idea that is filled with malice pops up in my mind. For an emperor of a large country like him, he might have gotten tired of eating luxurious food. That's why he is infatuated with Victoria, that rare androgynous beauty. Perhaps, even though Victoria is no longer around, Kolos is still around. She's also an androgynous beauty. Why not try to turn him gay again and leave him in history once more? All right, even though I'm just saying it casually to vent my anger over the mist royalty being forced to lower their heads, Kolos, who is preaching in the square, suddenly feels a chill down her spine. She shudders, as though misfortune is about to descend upon her. Following that, I flip to the last page of the newspaper. There are portraits and a brief introduction of the representatives of the various vassal states who are participating in the succession ceremony. Donlan Principality, I got it. Is it a princess? Renee Chin missed? Gotcha. The newspaper that was barely pieced together is completely destroyed. This time, it isn't because of anger, but because of the scene in front of me. At the corner of the newspaper, there is a vivid portrait. On the portrait, a valiant female knight wearing silver armor is waving to the people with a bright smile. Knight Princess Renee, the only descendant of the mist in the world. She is deeply trusted by the people. An imposter of the descendant of the mist? All my guesses are useless now. In front of the valiant face of the female knight, I have to admit it even if I don't want to. Roland, look at this. This Lord Princess looks so similar to Rollo and you. Could it be that you are a family? Don't try to deny it. This time, the evidence is conclusive. Hurry up and let Momo meet the cute little Rollo. Momo rushes in. In her hands, she is waving a newspaper that is exactly the same as the one in my hands. As for that knight princess named Renee, she actually looks 90% similar to me. If it wasn't for the gentleness of a female instead of a male, the sharpness of her face and the thinness of her eyebrows, it would seem as though we are the same person. Staring at the portrait of the young lady, I make up my mind. Looks like we have to make a trip to the capital of the Ottoman Empire, Kajisi City. Chapter 77. Renee Chin Mist, 14 years old. After the death of her father Cash Mist in battle, she became the sole successor of the Mist bloodline, gaining the trust of the people and the military. This Night Princess's experience is similar to ours. A year ago, during the border conflict, the Beastman army suddenly attacked, and the previous King Cash was outnumbered and died in battle. This Night Princess went into battle at the last minute and charged for 3,000 miles, sweeping the Beastman army back to their homeland. However, there are no records of her personally participating in that battle, so her battle strength and job are unknown. Regardless of whether it is within the country or abroad, she has already been compared to the legendary Gemini Roland and Cavendish. 300 years ago, the legendary Holy Knight Roland grew rapidly in battle, reaching bronze at 12, silver at 13, and gold at 14. Before his death, it is said that the god of holy light appeared and allowed him to break through the legend realm, killing countless enemies. However, it is a pity that he was too young and died of exhaustion. Even if he is the fastest growing human, this kind of growth speed is still inconceivable. According to this speed, wouldn't he become a semi-god at 20 years old? In fact, due to his growth speed being too ridiculous, there are private rumors saying that he was wronged, and in the end, the god of holy light couldn't stand it anymore. So he bestowed him the power to break through. Based on this rumor, a bishop even proposed to confer the title of Saint Roland and given the posthumous title of Saint Roland. However, this is obviously exposing his own dark history and slapping the face of the entire Holy Church. so naturally, it is impossible for it to pass. All right, the rumors are so unbelievable, but the truth is that a certain transcender killed monsters and leveled up crazily in battle, thinking that he would be able to turn the tables. But in the end, he couldn't escape the tragedy of history. On the other hand, if Roland was a growth-type genius, then Cavendish would have been an unimaginable genius from the very beginning. He was a mage and warrior at the same time, and he had already broken through to the gold rank at an early age. At the age of 12, he was already a legend, which led to the bloodshed of Bern. If Roland was a genius that only appeared once every 300 years in the Holy Church, then Cavendish would be a genius that only appeared once every 1,000 years in the entire HE. However, only I knew that Cavendish had long reached the threshold of the saint rank. He didn't break through at the same time by cultivating magic and martial arts at the same time. Instead, after cultivating his magic to the legend rank, he got bored and went to cultivate his martial arts to reach the legend rank once more. This kind of growth was obviously even more inhuman, but if it was inhuman in the first place, then it could be explained. In my research in the future, I found out that Cavendish was a demon fetus, or rather, even though he was a human, he was chosen by the Chaos Abyss. How could he possibly be ordinary? It could be said that the most important goal of the demon invasion, which was filled with suspicions, was to return the favored child of the Chaos Abyss. And in another unexpected adventure, I discovered a whole lot of shady dealings back then. A certain brain-dead prophet predicted that the Prince of the Abyss would be born from the Gemini twins of the extreme north. In order to prevent such a fate from happening, they first used the upper echelons of the Holy Church to test the pressure, forcing the royal family to hand over their eldest son to the Holy Church as a soft hostage. Then, they attempted to make him a holy knight to resist fate. At the same time, they sent assassins to assassinate the second son multiple times, which became an opportunity for the second son to grow. To speak the truth, this prophecy was indeed correct. With the system accompanying me, if I were to go all out and kill people to level up, I would definitely be even more of a demon fetus than Cavendish. In the history, it was indeed Roland who became the Prince of the Abyss. From the looks of it, the prophecy of both princes being demon fetus wasn't wrong. But sometimes, I would also think that if it wasn't for this ridiculous prophecy, we wouldn't have been forced to such a state. Did the prophecy really come true? Or did the prophecy create the truth through its own butterfly effect? I'm afraid that no one would be able to figure it out. But if one were to look into it, it would be like the chicken before the egg, or the egg before the chicken. It is an unsolvable question that makes one feel puzzled and meaningless. But a fly doesn't bite an egg without a crack. Even without the instigation of a schemer, under the general trend of history and the attraction of benefits, war would still have been triggered in the end. Being outnumbered, the final outcome would probably still be the same. All right, back to the main topic. Even though they were princes of a fallen country, even though history was distorted and not recognized by the mainstream, one was a tragic hero who sacrificed himself for his country, while the other was an anti-hero who sacrificed everything in order to avenge his fallen country. Even in the modern era, the twin princes were still the pride of the Mist country. For this princess to be compared to the legendary twin stars of 300 years ago, it was sufficient to prove the love and reverence the citizens had for her. But I also noticed that the clothes and hairstyle of Princess Renee in the portrait were all imitations of Roland back then. Even the silver female armor she was wearing was a female version of my Thorn War armor. That seemingly cheerful smile of hers was an extension of the standard smile of a Saint Knight. If she doesn't worship the heroic figure from 300 years ago, then the greatest possibility is that she is intentionally imitating the heroic figure from the legends. If the power of the country has deteriorated to the point that she, as a princess, has to create a god to gather the hearts of the people, this isn't a good sign. Perhaps I had been subconsciously avoiding the new owner of that country, which was why I had been treating her as an imposter or as if I didn't care. Even when I started to gather intelligence on the various countries, I didn't start from the Donglan Principality. Now that the truth was placed in front of me, if I were to avoid it, I would become a tortoise hiding in its shell. That wasn't something I would do. I walked into the bathroom alone and soaked myself in the pool. Taking off the time distortion ring, I carefully adjusted the scale on the ring from 20 to 12 before putting it on. Then, as expected, it's exactly the same. When one's age returned to the time when they had just started their second puberty, the difference in gender wasn't as obvious. The mirror on the wall and the face that was almost identical to the one on the poster shattered the last shred of hope I had. Could it be that I really got into trouble that time when I drank too much? But that shouldn't be the case. Back then, the Saint Knight Order had a bunch of rules. Before I turned 12, I lived like a monk in Banin. After that, I fought battles every day. Where would I have the time to make mistakes? What else could be more incomprehensible than having a great-great-great-granddaughter for no reason? The only consolation I had was that even though they advertised that they were the descendants of Roland, it was unclear whether they were Roland or Cavendish. After all, the demon army led by Cavendish had cleansed them out of vengeance, creating countless enemies and resentment. Under that situation, even if they were the descendants of Cavendish, they wouldn't speak the truth. It was normal for them to use the name of Roland. You bastard brother, you still want me to take the blame for you at such a time. Thinking back to the time when we were twins who looked exactly the same, and I was the one who was better at talking, Cavendish was much more popular than me. He wasn't bound by all those rules and regulations. At a young age, he knew how to act young, breaking down the guard of his sisters. Not to mention the palace maids, even noble ladies fell for him. He even flaunted it in front of his elder brother. Even though I was gnashing my teeth in hatred, I still paid attention to my image as a crown prince and a saint knight. I pretended to be mature and gentlemanly, paying attention to my reputation and image. In the end, I was still a bachelor when I died. Now that I have a bunch of descendants whom I couldn't even tell if they were real or fake, I felt like I was being taken advantage of. All right, I admit that it was the envy, jealousy, and hatred of a 300-year-old archmage. According to folklore, a 30-year-old virgin male would naturally become a mage. 300 years old. Should I be a forbidden spell mage or an archmage? But when I think about how I have a great-great-great-granddaughter who is physically older than me, the exact seniority is unclear. I feel an inexplicable headache. The door isn't locked? Oh, I'm sorry. Suddenly, the door opens and that ferocious dog walks straight into the bathroom. After calmly looking at me, who was soaking in the bath, she turns around and walks out. Oh no, she didn't walk out. She went to lock the door. What is she trying to do? I felt that something was amiss. That is a magic that changes your physical body, right? Which one is your real age and name? Rollo? Roland? I'm guessing that it is Rollo. Otherwise, you would have eaten Big Sister long ago and wouldn't have gotten so angry when I mentioned how useless and underdeveloped you are. I'm sorry, I accidentally stepped on your sore spot. Momo will take note of it in the future. Even though what you said sounds nice, but what are you trying to do? Why did you take off your clothes? Why did you come over? Why did you walk in a bath? What's with that saliva? Just let Momo hug me for a while. Just hug me for a while. Momo won't do anything, really. You should wipe away your saliva first before saying those words. Also, that perverted smile on your lips. As expected of a dark elf. What do you mean by that weird, twisting motion of your fingers? What are you trying to do? Be good, my little darling. It will just hurt for a while. The ferocious hound has completely turned into the embodiment of lust. The dumbfounded me has already been forced into a corner. Don't even think about it. Black-skinned elf. Don't touch my man. Momo, what are you doing? A second before Diana broke the lock to enter, a flash of light suddenly shoots out from the ring on her right hand and hits Momo. Under the rage of the demon marquise, she falls to the ground. I'm sorry, Roland. I have activated the emergency rescue procedure and the ring's energy has been depleted. I'm afraid that I won't be able to contact you for the next 3 days. I really didn't see the water on the ring as the activation procedure. I'm not interested in bathroom play or peeping in the bathroom. All right, Eliza, even if you're trying to act cute now, I won't find it cute. I'm sorry, Lord. I will scold her properly. All right, you rushed in directly. Also, can you not look at me so calmly? Even if a boy hasn't developed yet, he still has human rights. The gray elf who rushed in directly lifts her companion up and apologizes with her head lowered. However, the way she covers her mouth and chuckles after sneaking a peek really infuriates me. All right, the two elves have left, and the bathroom regains its peace. However, I silently leave the pool. First, I take off Eliza's ring and press it under my clothes. Then, I adjust the time distortion ring and put it on. Next, I take out the spare sword beside my clothes and place it by the side of the pool before starting to bathe again. 5 minutes later, the door is broken. Is there anyone inside? Oh, male clothing. Since the pool is big enough, let's bathe together. Everyone can bathe together and scrub each other's backs. Big brother, you dropped your soap. Let me help you pick it up. This time, the ones who came are the two brothers that I can't look straight at, Bayfoam and Cassio. I've had enough of perverts. Eat my sundering slash. It is a pity that due to the difference in our strength, Bayfoam successfully catches the blade with his bare hands. However, it is definitely a mistake to prepare the sword. The name of this group is definitely a mistake. They are all absolute gentlemen. How can there be normal people? Are you saying that you are a normal person? Gentlemen and perverts are attracted to each other. All of a sudden, a wet kitten jumped out of the bathtub. It shook its body to get rid of the water. Then, it walked past me and left the bathroom. Harloise, you are here too. Slimes need to replenish their water regularly. I came earlier than you. Seriously, you are already so old, yet you are still competing with a cat. Right? Your body is not bad when you're young. You're really cute. Why don't you consider joining my harem? Although I never recruit males, but since you are so cute, I can make do with a boy. Harloise, eat my holy light slash. The pitch black night doesn't represent the end of the day. The accident during the day finally turns into a farce that engulfs everything. Initially, I wanted to bathe to recover from my fatigue, but thinking about how that was the start of everything, I could only lie on the bed helplessly. However, unexpectedly, Harloise, who is transformed into a cat, jumps into the room from the window. Hey, it's time to learn. You don't want the news of a holy knight learning elemental magic to be spread out, right? It's better to reduce the title of a freak. Although she is unreliable and dangerous, valuing the inheritance of knowledge and promises is one of the few good points of Harloise in the past. Thinking about the ice magic learning that I promised, my interest is piqued. In my second life, I did learn ice magic from Harloise, but back then, Harloise wasn't easy to talk to, so it is hard to say how much she taught me. She even said that I was stupid and didn't learn well. But half an hour later, I said that you are a pig and you are really panting. Such a stupid acolyte is really impossible to teach. Feeling the breath of the elements doesn't require you to control them. Communicate, not to order or threaten them. If you mess around like this, not to mention becoming a semi-god, how did you even become a legend rank mage? Of course, I used the system to cheat. All right, it is enough to just think about it in my mind. There's no need to say it out loud. However, it seems that even if Harloise had taught me seriously back then, the results would probably be the same. I really don't know how you managed to teach Eliza. Her ice magic already has its own path, and her potential is limitless. As for you, your understanding is still stuck at the level of an acolyte. I just threw her the spell book and study notes, and told her to ask Marguerite if she doesn't understand. That's all. The cat sighs helplessly, but in a moment of distortion, she transforms into a human form. My leveling up has increased her ability to transform as well. The golden-haired girl appears once again, but so cute. Looking at the doll-like 3-inch nail in front of me acting like a teacher, I immediately burst into laughter. The intent of revenge in my laughter is obvious. Harloise sighs helplessly. Are you learning or not? If you aren't, I'm going to sleep. If you were a little more capable, why have become so small? The strength of a magic pet is linked to its master. Since I'm still a weak chicken, it is obvious that she is still far from turning into a human. Elemental magic comes from the ancient elemental gods. The elemental gods and the element have their own temperament. Every type of elemental magic has its own nature. Your understanding of ice is only at the surface, so naturally, you are unable to improve. What do you think the nature of ice is? Why did you choose to learn ice back then? The nature of ice? Isn't it just low temperature? How hard is it to understand? Why did I choose ice back then? Isn't it because I was born from the snow country? So I deeply understand the cruelty of winter and feel that ice magic has limitless potential. Actually, every high-level elemental mage has their own understanding of the elements. The reason why I didn't teach you before wasn't because I was holding something back, but because I wanted you to comprehend it yourself. However, it has already been a few hundred years, and you are still at this level. I know that with your aptitude in magic, who knows how many thousands of years it would take for you to comprehend it completely. Let me talk about my own understanding. With a wave of her hand, a miniature fire eagle soars in the room. Then, with a point of Harloise, a white cloud floats over. I thought that the fire eagle would explode from the clash of ice and fire. However, what surprised me was that the fire eagle only turns white, slowing down its flying speed. This is completely different from the clash of ice and fire that is common knowledge. Suddenly, I understand a little why Eliza is able to control both ice and fire at the same time. Based on my personal understanding, ice isn't something that exists in reality. She's a kind of state and trend that slows things down or even stops them. Hearing these words, I immediately feel some respect for Harloise. Temperature is a kind of energy. Low temperature will decrease the activity of things. These concepts of physics aren't much to a transcender, but for a native mage to reverse engineer the essence of elemental magic, it requires the accumulation of countless theories and experiments. This is enough to prove that Harloise's attainments in magic are extremely high. She is indeed worthy of the title of omniscient. Every ice mage's understanding of the essence of ice is different, and there is no right or wrong between them. As for your little disciple, she specializes in the creation of ice. From what I see, she views ice as the moment of stillness. In the end, she was able to train in both ice and fire because she viewed fire as the moment of movement. Through a combination of movement and stillness, an entire world was formed in her mind. Warriors strengthen their physical body to change the world, while mages use their own will and thoughts to influence the world. Don't use a foolish warrior's way of understanding magic. Otherwise, you will remain an apprentice your entire life. Looking at the solemn face of this 3-inch nail for the first time, I feel that she is indeed a teacher. I silently nod my head. Closing my eyes, I think of the tall, snowy mountains and glaciers of my hometown during winter. Living beings strive hard to fight for the right to continue living under the cruel elimination of nature, and nature uses its own methods to choose the strong who have the qualifications to continue living. Thank you, teacher. I think I understand. Chapter 78. Warriors strengthen their physical bodies to change the world, while mages use their own will and thoughts to influence the world. Don't use the foolish warrior's way to understand magic. Otherwise, you will remain an acolyte for the rest of your life, or a foolish warrior who only knows how to wield the sharp sword known as magic. Harloise is right. In the past, I did walk the wrong path. Just because I was troubled by the lack of long-range attacks as a holy knight, I didn't care about my actual situation and blindly chose to learn ice magic. Demand determined supply. Back then, I didn't really need to dig deep into the potential of ice magic. Even though my talent in magic is average, fine, just as Harloise said, my perception of the essence of the elements is so slow that it's stupid, I still forcefully raised it with the help of the system. However, at the same time that I no longer have to face bottlenecks, I also lost the accumulation period of being stuck at bottlenecks and the period of growth after a breakthrough. This is just like a science and engineering otaku using pure logic to analyze a literary work. Perhaps he might be able to analyze all the attractive points of the literary work and make it sound logical. However, if he were to write his own beautiful essay, he would only end up writing dry pieces of tofu. Due to his lack of emotions and devotion, he is unable to link all the scattered points together into a truly good story. In the end, most of the stories end up as simple and clear news articles. According to Harloise, learning magic is similar to creating art. Both are about using one's own will to paint a small world in one's heart. than using one's own small world to influence the real world. In that case, learning magic requires a strong sense of personal subjectivity. These thoughts and processes may seem unrelated to one's strength, but in reality, they are extremely important. They determine a mage's path, and after losing these perceptual knowledge, one's path will naturally become narrower and narrower. I'm the most obvious example. I learned literature, elemental magic, which requires perceptual knowledge, as mathematics, martial arts. In the end, I could only follow the books and imitate the footsteps of my predecessors to learn standard magic, forcefully turning my own ice magic into an ice cannon tower. Accumulating mana and blasting it became my ultimate understanding of ice magic. As a mage who researched forbidden spells, this is too much of a waste. But fortunately, hard work is never wasted, even if it's the opposite of what you're trying to do. Even though I didn't do research on emotions, the time and effort I put into learning rationally wasn't wasted. The fate points that I spent were rewarded. Although my rationality wasn't aware of it, the emotions in the depths of my soul were enlightened. Yep, it sounds like a tongue twister. Then, it should be even though your mouth says no, your body is so honest. The crystallization of his understanding and feelings was the once-in-a-lifetime soul imprint. Soul imprint. Mark of justice, destruction. Necropolis crown, destruction. Ice treader, destruction. Son of light, destruction. On the system's interface, the 4 soul imprints of destruction were split into a row. Increase the effect of magic incantations by 1%, and increase the power of necromancy spells by 1%, were negligible and could only be used to commemorate their past existence. Of course, unless I was suicidal enough to burn my soul again, they would probably be like this forever. In my second life, Ice Treader was my soul imprint, but it was clear that I had always let down its true meaning. Treader, a person who walks, measures the world with his own footsteps. From the perspective of a traveler, he discovers the scenery, understands nature, and understands life. Ice Treader is actually a traveler who is obsessed with the scenery of the northern country. The boundless snowy region, the unreachable peak of the mountain, the beauty of life under the dormant state, the avalanche that causes the earth to shatter, the small world that never freezes under the ice river, the white wolf pack that howls at the sky, the giant monster and the snow leopard that hides in the snowy mountains, the sprouts under the snowy ground, life and nature, fighting and coexisting harmoniously. Even the gods have to remain humble in the face of the true power of nature. Life changes and the rules of nature remain unchanged for thousands of years. In order to survive the difficult winter, we have to work together. The winter wolves that work together to hunt understand this, and so do the people of the northern country. When Harloise mentioned the essence of ice that she had comprehended, the scenery of my hometown in the northern country kept replaying in my memories. So, no matter if it was then or now, I've always been homesick. Deep into the night, thunder started to rumble outside. I silently stretched my hand out of the window. What fell on my palm wasn't the familiar snowflakes, but the warm summer rain. What happens when a lost traveler is homesick? Naturally, it is to make a trip back home. But it is a pity that even though the scenery of snow in my memories is still the same, the flag flying on that piece of land isn't the same as before. That seemingly unchanged snow country is no longer my homeland. I don't want to go home, at least not now. Then, since I can't return to my homeland, I will temporarily turn the scenery of my homeland into a dream. Perhaps, one day, my dream will turn into reality. Infallible definer of the soul is always more honest than a mouth. In the 3 soul imprints that formed my soul world, the Ice Treader turned into the snow scenery of my homeland, displaying its true power. It turned into an endless traveler in the snow, describing the natural winter and the beautiful scenery of the snow and ice of my homeland. What an unqualified master. To think that you don't even know the true power of your own soul imprint. Is it because the immense power has blinded your senses? But it shouldn't be too late to understand now. So let it snow. As I spoke softly, the rain outside turned into snowflakes. The midnight snow that was limited to the small residence might not be noticed by the neighbors, but it caused the temporary residents to exclaim in surprise. I finally understood that my path of ice magic isn't the self-righteous path of a canon. Instead, I used magic as a pen to turn the beautiful yet dangerous ice plains in my memories into reality. Ha! Don't you understand now? Harloise giggled as she jumped onto the windowsill. Turning back into her cat form, she disappeared into the snow. I closed the window. Understanding is just the beginning. There is still a long way to go before I can turn it into actual power. At the same time, in the depths of my soul, the soul imprint of the ice treader, destruction increases the effects of ice magic by 1%. Image of the snow knight traveler quietly changed. At this moment, it is the ice treader, damaged in the midst of recovery, increases the effects of ice magic by 3%. Looks like I have been overly reliant on the system. My soul is still here, so the body that nurtures my soul is still here. Naturally, the soul imprint, which is the crystallization of my soul, can be recovered. Let's take it slowly. A legend with 4 soul imprints. I am really looking forward to it. Very quickly, following the recovery of the soul imprint, my ice magic grew rapidly. Not long after, I was able to grasp the final forbidden spell, Ice Aeon. Then, I used the forbidden spell as a threat to force the Ottoman Empire to recognize the independence of the Donglan Principality. Alright, none of the above is possible. Life isn't a dream. Just by relying on one's understanding, one can advance 1,000 miles in a day. Those are the stories in novels. In reality, one has to take things one step at a time. Even though I have already understood the essence of ice and have a plan for my future development, the problem from the past still exists. That is, as expected, my talent in elemental magic is trash. It is still that magic book, it is still that person. Even if he comprehended some principles, he is still that wooden head, unable to understand what I am reading. Thus, after reading for half the night, I can only close the book helplessly. Opening the interface, I use the old method from the past, using the system to cheat. 20 skill points, I really can't bear part with it. Skill points is a good thing. It can allow me to learn a skill or magic, or raise a skill or magic to a circle. For example, a single skill point can raise a circle 1 ice arrow to a circle 2 ice arrow, greatly increasing the attack power and many other aspects. Now that I have just entered the 2nd rank bronze rank, the highest I can grasp is a circle 3 magic. The relationship between the number of magic circles and rank is that a 1st rank spell is a circle, a 2nd rank spell is a circle, a 2nd rank spell is a circle, a 3rd rank spell is a circle, a 3rd rank spell is a circle, a 4th rank spell is a 5th rank spell, so on and so forth. If I were to throw a dozen skill points into it at one go, alright, then I would be a cripple. Not mentioning the fact that the higher the circle, the more skill points are required to raise. If the circle is too high, then the failure rate of casting will be greatly increased. The backlash of magic can easily kill me. Throwing so many skill points into a one-circle spell without much potential is in itself an extreme waste of resources. The fate points that I have recently aren't enough for me to raise the next level. At this moment, I am still a LV21 Order Knight / Chaos Witch King. Originally, I should only have 10 skill points for every 2 levels. However, this dual job not only brought me twice the amount of skill points, it also gave me 4 times the expenditure. Before this, I didn't use any skill points at all. That is because I am confident that I can grasp any of the holy light and law elements of the Order Knight without using any skill points. As for necromancy magic, it isn't the time for me to learn it. Thus, I stored it all up, intending to forcefully break through the bottleneck of a high rank. But at this moment, I probably want to increase my fighting prowess very soon. I can vaguely see the path of the future. Since order and chaos are bound to develop in a balanced manner, then naturally, I have to invest more in the weaker areas. Furthermore, with my terrible talent in elemental magic, it is impossible for me to save on skill points. If there is any difference, it would be that I understand the path of the future through comprehension. I am consciously choosing the direction of development, accumulating experience, and breaking through and no longer making random choices. Looking through the messy ice magic on the interface, most of them are powerful turret-type magic. However, what I need isn't them. Very quickly, I found my target. I have already learned the one circle ice magic, Ice Shield. Adding on the other two spells, I should be able to reach my goal. First, Circle Ice Barrier. Steel forms a thin ice barrier on the caster's body, increasing defense by a small amount. If the caster is struck by the enemy, the attacker will be slowed down by 0.1 seconds. 2 Circle Ice Breath. Bronze casts a cone-shaped ice breath, dealing 1 to 3 ice damage. Also, it will cause the target to be slowed down by the freezing effect. The maximum range is 2 meters, and the duration is no more than 6 seconds. 3 Circle of Ice. Bronze with the caster as the center. A circle of ice is created and explodes outwards. The circle can only travel for a maximum of 15 meters. Those who come into contact with it will be slowed down by the freezing effect. The attack power of these 3 spells are close to 0, but they are rare ice magic that can slow down the target. If my estimation isn't wrong, they should belong to the same series, which can serve as a stepping stone to higher heights. First is the close-fitting Ice Shield. The ice armor that can be ignored by the naked eye doesn't have much effect, but it allows me to be enveloped by the ice element. Furthermore, it is one of the few spells that can directly create ice speed reduction, and it is this ice speed reduction that causes the attacker to be slowed down. At this moment, as I continuously activate my magic, a large amount of ice speed reduction is created from the ice armor. Next is Ice Breath. The ice speed reduction transforms into an icy mist. The ice speed reduction is purified and evolves, and the ground that it touches is covered with a thin layer of ice. Finally, the Circle of Ice. Following the command, the accumulated ice speed reduction explodes in an instant, destroying the entire room. Regardless of whether it is the furniture or the ceiling, everything is covered with a thin layer of ice. The chain of spells has achieved the effect of 1 + 1 + 1 + 3, but I still furrow my brows in distress. If it was just for this effect, I would have just thrown in a random high-level spell. The huge investment of 2 skill points isn't for this. Is it still not enough? It should still not be enough. Then, there's only that spell left. Thus, I open the interface once more and find a large-scale ice speed reduction spell. 6 Circle Blizzard Gold rank create a small-scale blizzard. Use the falling snow to create a large-scale ice damage and movement speed reduction effect. Even if I light up a 6 Circle spell, I won't be able to use it for a long period of time. 3 skill points. Please don't let me lose everything. In the next second after I activate Blizzard, the ice armor disappears, and the ice speed reduction spell that fills the room is suddenly retracted. Then, with a breath and a release, it turns into a higher quality, lethal ice speed reduction spell. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have learned the combination skill, Ice Speed. This skill is a simulation of the cold of the natural world. No life form is completely immune to it. Brat, you have made a good choice this time. You finally know how to use me. Use the best steel on the blade. Cherish your skill points. Ice Speed Reduction Spell. A type of silent and deadly ice speed reduction spell. It can be attached to the physical body and weapons, and can also be used along with ice magic. Those who come into contact with it will have their movement slowed by 1% and will receive 1 point of ice damage per second. This ability can be stacked. If the movement speed reduction effect exceeds 20%, the user will suffer from ice speed, mental rigidity, and many other negative effects. If the movement speed reduction effect exceeds 50%, the user may die from hypothermia at any time. Usage requirement: Soul Imprint Ice Treader. If host breaks through gold rank and grasps Blizzard magic, ice speed reduction will automatically evolve to the next stage. As expected, my guess wasn't wrong. Under the catalyzing effect of my Soul Imprint, the accumulation of ice speed reduction spell has turned into a qualitative change. Just by imagining it, one can imagine how sinister and deadly this silent ice speed reduction spell would be. As long as one fights with it, it would be stacked. By the time one realizes it, the ice speed reduction spell would be wrapped around one's body and it would be too late to reverse the situation. It would be like those pests in the fields that were suddenly frozen to death in the middle of the night. They can only watch helplessly as they die. And this is just the beginning. This ice speed reduction spell that mimics the cold of the natural world will become the cornerstone for me to reach a higher stage. In the end, it will become the impassable winter that belongs to me alone. As expected, only after passing through the cold of winter will I be able to see the warmth of spring. Only by abandoning my incomplete physical body and starting anew will there be a possibility of improving. Perhaps, with the accumulation of 4 soul imprints and 4 lives, I will be able to reach the peak of this world in this lifetime. Chapter 79. Don't let go of anyone who passes by. You won't lose out in 2 minutes, and you won't be fooled in 2 minutes. As long as you give us 2 minutes, we'll give you a brand new choice in life. Brother, the holy light is watching over you. Everything is possible. The Laughing Sisters welcome you with all sincerity. Mother Earth is protecting you. Anything you want is cheap, and anything you buy is good. Opportunity doesn't come again. Clear out the entire warehouse and sell a loss. Try it before you buy. Quality guaranteed. Find 10 times for any fake one. Bayanna's golden signboard is trustworthy. Clang, clang, clang. The God of War is great. The God of War is awesome. As long as you believe in our God of War, you'll be able to cure any illness and strengthen your body without any illness. No matter if it's a cold or stage 10 tuberculosis. As long as you believe in the God of War, you'll definitely be cured. Old Wong from a neighboring village got seriously ill 10 years ago at the age of 93. After joining our Church of the God of War, not only did he come back from the dead, he's now full of vigor. Just 2 days ago, he beat up a dozen or so kids. If you thought that this was some store slogan, then you'd be completely wrong. This was the large plaza in front of the Lens City Lord's residence, and it was the most bustling place in the entire city with the highest flow of people. And these people jumping around and beating drums were all respectable priests of a true god. Hey, brother, are you interested in the Church of the Goddess of Wealth? If you join now, we'll even give you 2 bottles of shampoo. Shampoo? The Laughing Sisters over there are giving you cooking oil. You lack sincerity. Please wait a moment. I'll go ask the Archbishop. We should have cooking oil in reserve. Don't be ridiculous. We're out of cooking oil. How about toilet paper and shampoo? Right, I still have 2 months of free Holy Communion rolls. Deal. But can you wait a moment? I just joined the Church of the God of War, and they only let me leave after 3 months. Sure, join before the end of the year and leave after. You still have to complete the annual mission. TSK, they still need my help to complete the annual mission for so little? I'll just go to the Church of the Goddess of Wealth. All right, since he felt that the gift was too little, he turned around and left. However, from the looks of the dozens of small gifts in his hands, how many times had he joined and left the guild? In the past, these venerable old gentlemen should be in their own churches, waiting for people to come to their door and spread the faith and doctrine of their true God, instead of acting like the merchants they used to despise, stopping pedestrians in the square, giving gifts and promoting their products for free. The reason? It was very simple. A powerful opponent had arrived in this city. She had obtained unbelievable prestige at an extremely fast speed. A large number of believers from other churches had changed their faith. The annual mission that was about to be completed had become an impossible mission. Wild Elf Judge Kolos. At the mention of this name, all the venerable regional priests would gnash their teeth in anger. She completely ignored the unspoken rules that everyone had agreed upon. She didn't create any promotional brochures, nor did she prepare any gifts. She didn't just stand in the square and smile lightly, and countless young men would take the initiative to ask her. Some even changed their faith of their own accord in order to win the smile of a beauty. Thus, in a short half a month, the number of believers in the God of Law in this city had increased exponentially. In this world where there was a true God, believers were the source of the true God's power, the cornerstone of the true God's church, and the annual mission that every priest had to complete. The total population of the city didn't increase, but the Church of Law rapidly grew stronger. Naturally, the other churches were at a disadvantage. Faced with the endless number of believers leaving their churches, the other churches were naturally anxious. All right, there were already pitiful young female priests wearing thin clothes, confessing while handing out flyers and gifts to passersby. However, it was a pity that as long as Kolo smiled, the situation would turn around once again. Now that the situation had developed to such an extent, even the venerable retired priest walked onto the streets, holding a thick paper bag of gifts, and began his career as a salesman. Of course, just relying on beauty wasn't enough. The crux was that the teachings and views of the God of Law were very attractive. Firstly, he didn't set up a church, so there was no need to pray to the name of a god. In other words, there was no need for a regional church. Thus, naturally, there was no need for donations. Due to the existence of the cycle of reincarnation and the true God, it was a fact that non-believers would fall into the river Styx after death. It was also a slogan used by the order gods to promote their faith. Thus, as the people of order, humans would usually choose an order god to believe in. However, the church also had to make a living. Thus, the donation of 10% of the total wealth had become an unspoken rule among the churches. But now, there was someone who didn't play by the rules. He directly shouted that he didn't set up a church and didn't take the initiative to accept donations. In the end, it created a snowball effect. Firstly, a large number of merchants changed their faith. This was equivalent to two regions simultaneously inviting a merchant to set up a factory. One of them had an annual tax rate of 10%, while the other had zero taxes. Under similar circumstances, as long as one wasn't a fool, they would choose the latter. Of course, the other churches were hesitant on whether they should lower the donation limit. However, this wasn't a decision that a regional church could make. Furthermore, if they were to fight a price war, the other party didn't even have a church, which meant that the cost was zero. How could they win? Secondly, the god of law, Womians, was a true order god. Yet, this female judge was actually able to provide job changes to the basic jobs. Yes, basic jobs, such as mage, priest, holy knight, and so on. With the help of the remnant page of the god equipment, within half a month, there were close to 100 justice knight and a dozen judges in this city. Judges require a high level of intelligence to take up the job. Following Womian's ascension to the level of a true god, the advanced jobs of justice knight and judges became basic jobs. This didn't mean that the law profession had become weaker. Rather, it meant that the entire law profession had become much stronger. One had to first become a holy knight and then a warrior. Only after reaching gold rank could one advance to become a justice knight. This limited the number of justice knight. How could the talents nurtured by other churches be as trustworthy as the ones nurtured by them from scratch? In the past, there weren't many true gods capable of providing basic job classes. The most famous ones were the Holy Church's holy knights and holy light priests. Justice knights and judgmenters were becoming more and more common, which meant that the law job class had limitless potential. Thus, in less than 2 weeks, the god of law had become the hottest topic in the entire city, and crows had become a popular figure known to every household. Of course, there are still some imperfections. For example, this beautiful female priest, equivalent to the judges of judgment. After preaching, she would always ask, "Is there any mystical creature that can turn into a male?" After receiving a negative answer, her forced smile is even more heartbreaking. It makes one wonder if the true god of law, Womians, likes cute boys, which is why this beautiful priest is forced to search everywhere. The god of law, Womians, likes cute boys the most. There is actually a rumor that started spreading. Boy your head, I'm heterosexual. All right, when I heard this rumor, I immediately crushed the teacup in my hands and flew into a rage. Even though my pathetic luck had made a habit for me to be shot while lying down, if I were to become the guardian god of gays and cute boys, because of this, I would rather die. Kolos originally came to the surface to search for a treasure to dispel her curse or to change her gender. However, if she were to leave just like that, it would be underestimating her sense of responsibility as an enforcer. She left the underground world after applying for a mission to preach. Following her application, it was said that Shiwadi received a few hundred mission applications in a single afternoon. Of course, the sudden departure of so many people would naturally cause a huge negative impact on the supreme law. Shiwadi didn't approve of it, but the seemingly honest old bull was actually a black-hearted person. Naturally, he didn't have any good intentions. He directly said that there were only 2 slots and that they could decide for themselves. All right, the bunch of hopeless old bachelors from the Hall of Justice fought until they were dizzy. It was said that there were a total of 300 people who participated in the private brawl, and less than 10 of them were able to come to work on the second day. It was truly tragic. In the end, the one who emerged victorious was a Gold Pinnacle Law incantation user and a Gold Pinnacle Justice Knight. Naturally, they became Kolos' Flower Protector's companions. I really couldn't understand why Kolos, a legend-ranked judge, would need your protection. Yes, the Knight Elf Kolos is a top-tier judge who was converted from the Great Drool. Although her personality is soft and not tough enough, despite being 700 years old, her strength isn't weak at all. She, who placed great importance on her responsibility, even if she had personal matters to attend to, she still treated preaching as her top priority. She placed the treasure to dispel the curse at the back of her mind. I am indeed grateful for her loyalty to her job, but can you not ask the other party if they have a miraculous item that can turn them into a boy after preaching? It makes it seem as though we are looking for a transsexual item instead. You should be happy, former Lord Womians. All right, that stupid cat saw through it. Even though I was grumbling nonstop, I was actually quite happy about it. After all, the divine power server that I sacrificed everything for didn't go to waste. The faith in law is also spreading at a rapid pace. Of course, without building a church, as long as one believes in law, one can use the power of law. While the faith in law is spreading at a rapid pace, it also causes the Sulphur Mountain Supreme Court, which also serves as the Church of Law, to lose control over the users of law. However, all of this is within my expectations. The Church of the Law is destined to develop in a state of disunity, allowing the other churches to heave a sigh of relief. After all, in their traditional view, the church is the root of maintaining their faith. As long as the faith in law can spread, it is enough. Churches and whatnot aren't important in the first place. With more people, and more people speaking up, it would instead start to change the original teachings. Su, imitate the God of holy light, giving up on myself, and turning into the rules of law. From now on, I'm the law, and the law is me. There is no need to chant my God's name in order to believe in and obtain the power of law. All you need to do is to believe in and carry out the rules of law. This is my godly ascension oath. My godly ascension oath said that the law itself is Womians, and Womians will turn into the law itself. This is equivalent to completely giving up on myself. A true God who doesn't have a self will not be able to give down a God's prophecy. Then, the churches that serve the true God naturally aren't important. Since that is the case, as long as the law is spread, Womians, the God power server, will eventually become as strong as the God of holy light. My next goal can then be realized. You can be smug all you want. However, there aren't many gold-ranked judges like Kolos, right? The progress in other areas won't be as fast. So, good steel must be used on steel blades. Let her follow us to the Ottoman Empire. Could it be that you can get Womians to give down a God's prophecy? She is wholeheartedly searching for the clue to dispel the curse. Of course, I can't. However, I have Womian's handwritten message before he ascended to godhood. I guarantee that it was personally written by Womians. Furthermore, if she follows me, she will get a chance to draw the God's prophecy once a month. It will be much better than running around like a headless fly. At the very least, more people won't think that Womians likes boys anymore. Chapter 80, Whispers of the Demon, is the first overture of Aichi's 7 calamities and the beginning of everything. Following the awakening of the will of chaos, the cultists and demon worshippers who worshipped the malevolent god of chaos started to create chaos and unrest in the world. When all of the ancient elemental gods were released, the arrival of the elemental tide changed the entire world. Other than the elemental creatures and magical beasts that increased in numbers, other than the emergence of experts from various races, it also gave the undead emperors and the undead plane the possibility of returning to the main plane. Furthermore, the shadow of the demon army invading the main plane was buried. At the same time, the ambitious and idealistic people started to stir. Among them, the most dangerous ones were the believers of the evil god who wished to establish an independent country and welcome the descent of the evil god. The underground city lords who were ambitious and planned to return to the surface. Not long ago, this overture was activated. Other than the unlucky fellow who was weakened to death while he was still in the sealed stage and was eaten the moment he was released, the other elemental gods would be released one by one, and a large number of elemental creatures would come to this world. Of course, if it wasn't for the epic quest brought about by the overture, I wouldn't have been able to resurrect so perfectly. 10 years later, when the expansion pack Vulture of War was released, under the drive of the schemers and ambitious people, the entire continent was in a mess. Then, what exactly happened in these 10 years? Firstly, it was the emergence of talents from various countries. All kinds of new equipment and troops emerged one after another. The frantic rise in the strength of the country made the rulers of the big countries restless. In addition, some organizations and individuals fanned the flames, such as assassinating the nephew of an emperor in the name of a small country, providing the fuse for the big countries who were already looking forward to war. At the start of the war, it was just a big country swallowing up a small country. Following the victory, when the entire country fell into a frenzy of war, when endless greed and war benefits blinded the eyes of the emperor and nobles, when countless new knight lords required more land, and when the country's strength rose day by day, the Vulture of War circled above the entire human world. At the end of the day, this was just the law of decline. The surface society with humans as the main body had developed to a certain extent, and the major countries hoped to go further. They hoped to become the emperor that unified the entire human society, or they hoped to become the overlord of a region. Even without the instigation of conspirators, the outbreak of war would still be inevitable. For certain supreme existences, the peach was ripe, and it was time to reap the harvest. And so, the war horn was blown once more, and the supreme holy war was waiting even earlier than it already was. World War. When a major countries brought their vassal states to start an all-out war, there were even people who happily predicted that after the war, a new empire that spanned across the entire continent would bring human society into a new stage. However, the cruel reality slapped the big countries in the face, telling them that it wasn't humans playing single player in this world, but all races playing PvP together. The rise of the Elf Empire along with the various tribes, the invasion of the various Beastmen tribes, and the invasion of the underground allied forces allowed the human countries, who outnumbered them by 100 times, to witness what it meant by gold were like cannon fodder, giant dragons were like dogs, legendaries were as common as dogs, and semi-gods were nothing. Before the human army, which outnumbered them by 100 times, had the chance to laugh at the numbers of the opposing army, they immediately witnessed the difference in individual strength. What it meant by 1 against 100 or 10 against 10,000, what it meant by the command center being destroyed by the other party before the war even started, what it meant by a cavalry charging into the city walls. A commander might not even be as strong as an elite veteran. This war was really unwinnable. If it wasn't for the underground allied forces falling into internal strife due to the uneven distribution of resources, if it wasn't for the major countries unhesitatingly sacrificing the interests of the smaller countries, trading space for time, using land in exchange for the temporary satisfaction and division of the underground allied forces, delaying the time of the final battle, the war might have ended long ago. Then, the invasion of the undead calamity and the appearance of the undead semi-gods who were exiled to the other world since the ancient times made the humans understand the pain of lacking top-notch fighting strength and the futility of competing with the calamity army in terms of numbers and cannon fodder. As for the invasion of the demons and the last few calamities, In reality, they were just a few more stabs to the already devastated He continent. Anyway, they were already on the verge of death, and if they were left alone, they would die anyway. Along with the endless deaths, the war would continue to escalate. When the goddess of order and goddess of chaos personally enter the battlefield, everything should be over. To speak the truth, every time I look at this history, the feeling of helplessness that comes from the bottom of my heart makes me feel like I have no motivation at all. In the face of this kind of historical trend, the strength of an individual is completely negligible. Prevent the outbreak of war? I am not that naive, but there are indeed some things that I can do, and I have already done it. For example, the invasion of the underground world is still unavoidable due to the strong desires of the underground dwellers. However, under the leadership of Sulphur Mountain City, at least their aggressiveness would be much stronger. As long as it is dealt with properly, they can even work together to resist against the other calamities. Shilua Empire, the variable that I created single-handedly, has another bizarre effect. The invasion of the undead plane's undead calamity has been brought forward. So, it should have started 70 years later, and not the 30 years at most that Deckars told me. Perhaps I should thank the hard work of the head of the Council of Dark Knight, the second Senator Feyman. Does it seem like a bad thing? No, it is actually a good thing. Following the arrival of the elemental tide, the connection between the various planes will become easier and easier. It is impossible for the undead emperors, who have been eyeing the He continent for a long time, to not come. Furthermore, if they were to come earlier, they would become a powerful external enemy that would cause the civil war in He to end prematurely. Furthermore, to forcefully enter the main plane at the start of the elemental tide, it is inevitable that the undead emperors would suffer a loss in strength and military strength. At the very least, the 3 undead emperors who have reached the level of a true god would definitely be unable to enter. Thus, the scale of the undead calamity this time would definitely be much smaller than the one in history, giving us the possibility of dealing with them in batches. Thus, the instruction I gave to the royal faction is to reconcile with Feyman and push forward with the invasion of the other planes. The earlier he arrives, the better. If they are able to arrive before the invasion of the underground world, that would be even better. Then, using the excuse of fighting against the undead together, they could find the humans to cut a piece of land or snatch a piece of land from the hands of the undead calamity. Who knows, after the war, both sides might be able to coexist and accumulate sufficient fighting strength to deal with the upcoming troubles. Of course, this is the good aspect of the undead calamity's invasion being brought forward. The bad aspect is that if they aren't even able to withstand the weakened undead calamity, they would be doomed. Or if the Underground Alliance army loses control, or if they aren't able to come to an agreement, then dealing with both the undead calamity and the Underground Alliance army at the same time would also be the end of the world. Well, since the future is filled with calamities and there isn't much hope in the first place, then we might as well try it. The Ottoman Empire, it has only been established for 700 years. It is considered the shortest among the superpowers. However, they aren't the weakest. On the contrary, due to the successive generations of wise monarchs who are determined to forge ahead, the country is rich and powerful. Instead, there are faint signs of them catching up. The capital, Kajisi City, is located along the river. It is divided into a total of 8 districts with a total population of close to 10 million. It is one of the top superpowers in the entire continent. Among them, the largest Pearl District has a population of 3 million and is known as the Sleepless City. If one were to describe the Ottoman Empire, then luxurious would be the most suitable adjective. Furthermore, the countless oil lamps and magical searchlights along the river, the luxurious horse carriages along the road, the pleasure boats and cargo ships on the river, the elegantly dressed gentlemen and ladies strolling along the river, and the merchants who come from all over the continent. Without a doubt, this city is filled with astonishing vitality. Now that the inauguration ceremony of the new emperor is just around the corner, the trees along the river are filled with colorful flags and jewels. The main road is actually paved with expensive silk carpets. Even the gold-plated oil lamps along the road are burning with the highest grade of mermaid oil. While the guests who come to visit are secretly cursing the local tycoons, they can't help but admire the power and wealth of the Ottoman Empire from the bottom of their hearts. The reason why the inauguration ceremony is so grand is not just for the sake of reputation. Originally, the 26 countries that are subordinate to the Ottoman Empire have already made it a large country. Now, with 42 countries as subordinates, it means that the Ottoman Empire has completely gotten rid of the role of a political upstart and has become a superpower that plays an important role in the world. Of course, there are some people who don't think this way. They are full of evil ideas and are prepared to cause destruction. But now he is troubled. After all, meeting old friends in a foreign land is a rare, joyous event in life. However, he really wants to pretend that he doesn't know the few old friends in front of him. As expected of the city of pearls, how extravagant. To think that they would even give out night pearls to passers-by. Cut the crap and take it. All right, those are the Goblin Ingo and Kabbalah. They are old acquaintances of Sulphur Mountain City. Right now, they are eyeing the jewels that are decorating the tree. Even though the surroundings are filled with onlookers and everyone is pointing at them, they are still happily stuffing the jewels into the gunny sack. Oh, high-grade mermaid oil. What a waste. It is even used as an additive for my old Hoyle's fuel. He recognizes the people in front of him, but he would rather not recognize them. They are indeed here to deliver gifts to the Ottoman Empire in hopes of reaping a bountiful harvest. Calculating the time, they should have arrived a long time ago. However, to be able to meet them here by chance, it could be considered as an ill-fated fate. Bastards, it is you bunch of thieves again. You're even here in the day. What? Thieves? What nonsense are you spouting? Aren't these placed on the streets for others to take? That's right, it is yours just because you say so. If you call it, will it reply to you? All right. Even though the goblin Kabbalah roars back at them, his movements don't slow down at all. He swiftly finishes stuffing the jewels and runs away, dragging the gunny sack along with him. Cough, cough. Don't run, you bunch of bastards. Their footsteps, honed from fighting with Sulphur Mountain City's town security for a long period of time, are incomparably swift. Furthermore, they are all underground experts who don't care about their reputation. How can a normal human guard catch up to them? Instead, they run until they are out of breath, falling further and further behind. Come and chase us then. The days without the town security are really as lonely as snow. Ha! Kabbalah, I am already invincible. Ouch! All right, Kabbalah, who is famous for being an expert at digging holes in Sulphur Mountain City, slips and falls onto the ground, his mouth full of mud. Kabbalah, what happened to you? What happened to you? Didn't I say that a hole must be filled up? Isn't this the wrath of the heavens? Who was the one who threw the watermelon skin? So inconsiderate. Kabbalah still owes Old Hoyle 100,000 gold coins. If he were to die, can you all afford it? All right, I can still understand his anger at the start, but the latter part goes astray. I don't have 100,100, only 100. Furthermore, dwarf, you obviously cheated last night. I won't even return you that 100. Even though there is a huge bump on his head, the goblin Kabbalah struggles with all his might, using his index finger to form a 1, afraid that this shameless old dwarf would take the opportunity to put the huge debt on his head. Indeed, if Kabbalah had 100,000 gold coins, he wouldn't need to drag a tattered gunny sack along the streets to pick up the ornaments on the tree. These could be considered as jewelry, but in reality, the quality is very low and it isn't worth much. Only goblins like Ingo and Kabbalah, who view wealth as their life, would do such a thing. All right, I really can't stand it anymore. But apparently, there is someone who can't stand it anymore. You bastards. You even dare to do such things in other cities. Silly town security? How is this possible? Didn't you all go to the north of the continent? Damn it, there is still that fierce dog. It was the fierce dog. Don't give random nicknames to others. Momo's name is very pleasant to hear. Silly big lass? All right, I got it. However, with the two town security clenching their fists, one at the front and one at the back, and a few experts from the Hall of Judgment holding the fort by the side, the three dwarves fall into despair. Don't hit my face. Don't hit my face. You don't even want your face anymore. How can you not hit me? This time, even the passers-by are amused by this farce. Seizing the opportunity, I, who is wearing my silver mask, smiles at the few guards who are watching the show. Good evening, gentlemen. The night is really beautiful, isn't it? May I ask, which direction is the embassy of the Donglan Principality? Chapter 81. In the palace district of Kajisi City, there was a cluster of palaces with a rich, exotic style. That was the diplomatic district and embassy. The Donglan Principality didn't have an embassy in the Ottoman Empire. In a certain villa, even though it was already late at night, a certain young lady who was deceived was still fuming. Darn Dasos, he didn't say that when he invited us. This is a fraud, an insult to the entire duchy. The 14-year-old young lady was throwing a tantrum in the room. Unfortunately, the one she was facing was her elder sister, who was smiling bitterly. Yes, they deceived us. But as a small country, what can we do? Are we going to announce it and refuse to submit? I'm afraid that they will view it as an insult to the empire and the new king and start an all-out war. I'm afraid that this is the reason they need to start a war. Yes, this time, the Donglan Principality didn't have the intention to become a subordinate country. Princess Renee was only tricked here. Similarly, there were a few other small countries that refused to submit. Based on the current development, the rise of the Ottoman Empire is unstoppable. If we insist on not submitting when the other countries have agreed to submit, we will definitely become a thorn in everyone's side. Just to protect the dignity of a big country, the Ottoman Empire will have to suppress us. Furthermore, we have just ended the war with the Beastmen. With our current strength, we can't afford to fight against them. Rain clenched her teeth and said, "This is clearly a fake show for real, using force to suppress people." Yes, they saw through this. That's why they tricked us here. But Big Sister Kelly, didn't you say that the Mist bloodline will never submit? Let's fight it out with them. The wood elf lady in front of them was the royal teacher who had served the Mist royal family for close to 500 years, Kelly for short. She had taught more than 20 monarchs of the royal family and was even the first teacher of the legendary Gemini star. Her prestige in the country was extremely high, and she was deeply trusted by the royal family. So, if we can make the Mist bloodline submit, Dasos and the Ottoman Kingdom will definitely gain a higher reputation. And if we don't submit, he will find a reason to start a war. No matter how we deal with it, he won't be at a disadvantage. That's why he is playing such tricks. Why? Weren't they all humans? Why are they more difficult to deal with than the evil orcs? The face of a young princess was full of fatigue. These days in Kajisi City, facing the honeyed nobles, she felt that it was more difficult to deal with them than on the battlefield. It is precisely because they are all humans that they are difficult to deal with. Your Highness, have you forgotten about the destruction of the Mist Kingdom? What did the Mist Kingdom get in return for guarding the borders of the entire human society? It was the shameless betrayal of the human countries and the heresy of the church. It was a vicious stab in the back. Never trust those foolish, short-sighted, and dishonest human rulers, as well as those faithless order gods. Although she was smiling, the green-haired wood elf's gentle words were filled with distrust towards the entire human society and the order gods. Furthermore, if you agree to sign the vassal country agreement, your support rate in the country will plummet. Perhaps this is also one of their motives. After all, the Mist bloodline has hurt them greatly, and your previous performance should have made them wary. Perhaps this is the reason why they didn't care about their reputation and set a trap for us. Renee was instantly speechless, following which her face was filled with disbelief. Just because her performance during the Beastman invasion was too good? In order to suppress her reputation and force her and the Donglan Principality to lower their heads, they came up with a forced vassal country? Impossible. No, the possibility is very high. Who asked you to have two illustrious ancestors? And the Mist bloodline is filled with geniuses. Naturally, they would be wary of you. Furthermore, you look similar to the twin princes. No, you look exactly the same. No matter if there is another demon invasion or the Night of Definder, they won't be able to take it. As they spoke, their gazes turned towards the oil painting on the wall. It was a painting of a battlefield. The war was ongoing, and young generals were advancing with flags in their hands. It was a pair of twins. A sword-wielding young man was slashing down in midair. The golden holy light shone on him, making him look like a deity descending to the mortal world. However, even in the most intense and despairing moment of the battlefield, he still wore a warm and sunny smile, as though there was a smooth road ahead of him. Behind him, there was another young man with the same face. He held a sword in his left hand and a wand in his right. Flames from hell were burning on his right arm, and his young face was filled with anger. Behind them was the heroic charge of the knights, and in front of them was an endless sea of beastmen and demons. At the corner of the painting, one could faintly see the flags of various human countries, expressing the anger and dissatisfaction of the artist. It was a replica of the famous painting of the Donlon Principality, The Last Princes. Prince Roland and Prince Cavendish? Big Sister Kelly, are they really that powerful? If they were in my current situation, would they be much better? Renee was a little depressed. This feeling of guilt towards her ancestors made her feel powerless. Don't say such disappointing words. You've already done very well. Kelly shook her head. This kind of comparison is meaningless. Renee is Renee, and the twin princes are the twin princes. If Cavendish was in your position, he would probably use his sword to kill to his heart's content. That would be the only option, and the situation would be even worse. In other words, if Prince Roland was here, perhaps the situation would be very different. Renee keenly noticed the hidden meaning in Kelly's words, which made her even more depressed. Hearing this, Kelly was stunned for a moment, before revealing a nostalgic smile. Ah, Roland. If it was him, he wouldn't have allowed himself to be in such a passive situation from the start. That brat looks like a sunny and cheerful person, but he's actually full of evil tricks. It's enough that he doesn't trick others, but would he allow others to trick him? On the other hand, Cavendish would definitely fall for it, but most of the time, he would disregard everything and charge out with brute force. Renee was a little curious. Big Sister Kelly before her was a true elder of the royal family and a living library, but all along, she didn't like to talk about the past. Now that this was a rare opportunity, she had to grab hold of it. Big Sister Kelly, can you tell me about the deeds of the two princes? Are they really as powerful as the rumors say? Renee leaned weakly on Kelly's body, allowing her to braid her hair and touch up her makeup. This was a daily habit of hers for the past 2 years. She thickened her eyebrows, drew on her eyeliner, cut off the excess hair, and used makeup to cover up her overly fair skin. Under Kelly's skillful hands, the difference between a male and female face was further blurred. Under the increasingly disadvantageous situation, the Donlon Principality needed a heroic knight who was similar to the legendary holy knight Roland, and not a noble lady who was destined to be busy with social events. Although it's inconceivable, in reality, they are much stronger than the rumors say. If it wasn't for the outbreak of the war, that era would have belonged to the two of them. Hearing this, Rain suddenly raised her head, and the makeup brush went askew on her face, causing a large part of her makeup to be ruined. Impossible. They were the same age as me when they died in the war. No, what Big Sister Kelly said must be true. I'm really useless. If only Prince Roland could make the decision for me. Puffed. What surprised Rain was Callie covering her mouth and giggling. Big Sister Kelly, what are you laughing at? I'm serious. No, Renee, it's just that someone said this before. Oh, Roland, he always says, oh my, this is so troublesome. It's a waste of my reading time. If only Carwins could take care of everything, then I could read and slack off every day. To think that a legendary hero would have such a lazy side. That Roland, who is viewed as a holy knight and the role model of the royal family, actually likes to slack off? Does Prince Roland like reading a lot? He likes it very much. No matter if it's art, music, literature, history, astronomy, geography, or even a messy alchemy and engineering, he likes them all. If he wasn't sent to the church to become a holy knight, if it wasn't for the sudden outbreak of the war, I'm afraid that he would have become a world-famous scholar. Wait, Big Sister Kelly, Wasn't he only 10 when he was sent to become a holy knight? How could he read at such a young age? The two princes already knew how to read when they were 1 year old. Otherwise, how could they be recognized as geniuses in the world? But there's a little story behind it. Amazing. Story? It usually takes a year or so for a normal boy to learn how to walk. Even if the mist bloodline allows a child to gain intelligence early, but for Cavendish to learn how to walk in a few simple words a month after he was born, he is already a super genius that could be recorded in the history books. What happened to His Highness? Him? Cavendish can walk, but he is still crawling. Cavendish can call for daddy and mommy, but he only knows how to cry. And when they were a month old and we were all worried for Roland, Cavendish started snatching his milk bottle with his strength. He finally spoke. And he first said to Cavendish, "Hey lad, you might not be afraid of being sliced, but I am. Can you take it easy? Can you be more professional? We are normal babies. We should learn how to cry now. Come, cry with me, wah. Come, raise the pitch, wah." Then he realized that Cavendish couldn't understand and continued snatching. So he shouted for help. Hey, can you guys control this rascal? He already knows how to bully his brother. How dare you snatch my food? I'll take you down with me. A month-old child actually knows how to hide his talents? This is simply unimaginable. Why not? I have taught many geniuses of the Mist royal family over the past few centuries, but I have never seen such a ridiculous child. Everyone thinks that Cavendish is a super genius, but Roland is even more ridiculous. If not for him splitting his attention on various subjects and missing the golden period of training, he wouldn't be any worse than Cavendish. Can you tell me more about Prince Roland? Looking at the fatigued Renee, Kelly caressed her hair, just like when she was young, and lowered her head to kiss the young lady's forehead. Then, since you were tired after a busy day, let's treat it as a bedtime story. Roland, even though he is smart, he is unreliable. Once he excitedly dragged me to see his new invention, even saying gleefully, "Look, this transparent thing will definitely sell well. I call it glass. It will definitely earn a lot of money. This way our citizens' lives will be much better." Is glass invented by Lord Roland? If I remember correctly, it was around 6,000 years ago. And at that time, he didn't know. When I told him, his depressed face was heartbreaking, and he even muttered, "It's fine. Let's invent movable type printing." Printing technology? Isn't that monopolized by the god of knowledge? I told him about it at that time, which made him even more depressed. But the next day, he started to study astronomy and biology again. That so-called survival of the fittest theory of evolution, even though it seems to be groundless, now that I think about it, it does make some sense. For example, species aren't created by the gods. They are changeable. Living things evolve, and natural selection is the driving force behind the evolution of living things. All living things have a tendency to over-reproduce, and their living space and food are limited, so living things have to fight for survival. Aren't all living things created by the gods? Don't all living things originate from the origin of order, the chaos abyss? Isn't that an obvious lie? But he wasn't depressed, and he quickly found a new toy. He has always been like this, never knowing what it means to be discouraged or give up. Even when the war started, he quickly grew from a rookie to a true god of war. If it wasn't for the fact that we were facing enemies 100 times stronger than us, under the accumulation of exhaustion and anger, Renee quickly fell asleep as she spoke. Looking at the young lady taking off her armor, Kelly fell into deep thought. That armor is gorgeous. On the surface, it is a mithril heavy armor, but in reality, it is just a soft armor with a layer of light alloy, making it even lighter than leather armor. It is impossible for the Mist bloodline to produce geniuses every generation. Renee isn't a genius, and she isn't even a qualified warrior. A 14-year-old Iron Rank warrior is no different from a commoner. During the charge of 3,000 miles, all she was responsible for was raising the flag and shouting the slogan, leading the charge while trembling. If she were to really meet an opponent, any beast man would be able to kill her easily. However, it is a pity that the current Donlon Principality is plagued with both internal and external threats, and it does require an ancient heroic knight princess. Renee has sacrificed a lot, But based on how the current situation is developing, she still has to continue sacrificing, even if her sacrifice might not be rewarded at all, and what awaits her is infamy and the incomprehension of her citizens. Perhaps Renee is right. This burden is really too heavy for her. Roland, where are you? Kelly caresses the dagger by her waist. On the hilt of the dagger, two gigantic dragons are circling around each other, and two night illumination pearls are embedded in it, emitting a white light and a black light. This is the lamp of life, a secret art passed down by the royal families of the various countries. When a member of the royal family is born, the first drop of their blood is taken for a ritual, and this pearl becomes their lamp of life. If the lamp of life is extinguished, it means that the person is dead. This can also be used to prevent people from impersonating the members of the royal family. And this decorative dagger with two pearls is the lamp of life of the twins, Roland and Cavendish. Cavendish's lamp of life is getting darker and darker. Looks like he is about to completely fall into chaos, but the situation of Roland's lamp of life is extremely strange. It lights up for a moment, extinguishes for a moment, turns white for a moment, and turns black for a moment. 100 years ago, the lamp of life was so dark that it even surpassed Cavendish's. Not too long ago, it strangely extinguished, and 2 months later, it lights up and turns white again. If this lamp of life is reflecting the real situation, Roland is still in this world. His life should be very exciting. For some reason, the dagger trembles slightly, as though it is being summoned by something. Kelly instinctively stands up and stretches her head to take a look, only to realize that there is a figure under the tree. Roland. But when she looks over, she realizes that it is just a willow tree drifting along with the wind. Shaking her head, Kelly closes the window. Looks like I'm the same as Renee, hoping for a reliable shoulder. In a corner that she doesn't notice, under the window, a figure wearing a silver mask is gnashing his teeth in anger. Dasos, how dare you set your sights on the Mist Country? I will let you suffer a fate worse than what happened in history.